Let's talk about the time that me and my friends snuck out of the state, lied to my parents, and went to a rave. So me and my best friend at the time, we had planned to go to a rave after school out of state with the person I was dating at the time and like a couple friends. Me and my best friend, we had created a lie to my parents that I was gonna go stay the night at her grandmother's house, and then we had told her grandmother that she was gonna go stay the night at my parents' house. So obviously we're not staying the night at either house, but each one thinks we're gonna, you get it. After school, we told them this lie. We went to my house and we told my parents, and then we were like, oh, we're just gonna like go out, we're gonna get some snacks, and then we're gonna go to her grandmother's house. We didn't go get snacks. We went and got cute ass rave outfits, and we then went to the person that I was dating at the time's house to like get ready and everything. This plan seemed kind of foolproof. My parents never really checked in wherever I was going, and her grandmother had never like checked in with my parents. I don't even think they had each other's number, to be completely honest. And so we were like, we got this, it's whatever. And so we go, we get ready, we're all cute, right? We have our tickets, we're heading out of state. So mind you, we're from Massachusetts. The rave itself was in Rhode Island, and if you know anything about that distance, for us it was about probably like 2 hours top of Massachusetts. So we drive 2 hours all the way to Rhode Island. When we get to Rhode Island, my significant other at the time had a great idea to take rave vitamins. So the group decided to do that. Was that a good idea? Fuck no. We do that maybe like 30 minutes before the rave. We drive to the parking garage that we're gonna park at for the rave, and my not so bright idea, and this matters at the end of the story, in my cute rave outfit, I don't have room for my phone, obviously, and I don't want my significant other to hold it because he's crazy and he'll probably, I don't know. Regardless, I leave it in the car. I leave my phone in the car. So that's issue number one. We get into the rave. Honestly, everything's fine. Prior to leaving my phone in the car, I hadn't heard from my mom. My friend's grandmother hadn't said anything weird. Like, we were in the clear, right? We're in the clear. We're not in the clear. We go, we have a great time at this rave. Like, the best time of our life. We're singing, we're dancing, we're living the best life we possibly think we can in our senior year of high school. And then the rave ends. The rave ends. And this is when things get dicey. So we walk back to the car, still on cloud 9 from our vitamins, having a good time, not thinking absolutely anything, right? We're gonna have the rest of the good night. We're gonna probably go out somewhere. We're gonna, hang out with all these new people that we met. Everything's great. Everything's fine, right? Wrong. We get to the parking garage, open the car door, and there's my phone. Right where I left it, right where I shouldn't have left it, because everything from here on out could have been avoided if I simply had my phone. Maybe not, but if I had my phone. So I open the door, I pick up my phone. The amount of calls and text messages from my mom, from my dad, from my brother, because no one knows where we are. No one knows where we are. And why would they? Because we're in a different state. Go to the next part. So here's the end of the story about going to a rave, skipping states, and lying to my parents. So we had just found my phone. Well, didn't find it, but got back to my phone in the car. And my parents are going off. I have voicemails. My friend's grandmother's calling and texting, because my friend also left her phone in the car. We're really stupid at this point. No one was sharing locations at this time. No one was like on Life 360. That wasn't like going on at this time. So they didn't know where we were. They had no idea. My mother, of all days, reached out to my friend's grandmother and was like, hey, how are the girls doing? She's like, what do you mean? What do you mean, how are the girls doing? You tell me, they're at your house. No, they're not. So they're going back and forth like, oh my God, she said that they were going here. Well, no, they said that they were at your house. We're not at either of your houses. We are out of the state. Now I'm freaking out. I'm listening to these voice messages. My mom's going off. My dad's pretty calm, which is not out of the question for him, but it's always like that eerie, calm vibe of like the parent, like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed, call me back. I am surprised that a police search party wasn't out for me, because that's also my parents. They're those type of people. And they didn't do that this time though. So I'm freaking out. And mind you, my vitamins aren't helping me in this situation. If anything, they made it worse. So I'm talking to my significant other, and I'm like, what do we do? How do we handle this? My friend, she couldn't give a shit less, to be completely honest, because like her parents didn't really care anyway, and it was like her grandma wasn't really gonna like do anything. My parents were the ones that were gonna get us in trouble. So I'm like, listen, you need to call them. You need to call them. I can't talk to them right now. So my significant other takes my phone, calls my mom, or calls my dad. I honestly forget. I wasn't like there. I wasn't in the right mind. But mind you, he's calling them on the way to a club. We're on our way to a club. And I was like, just tell them that like we're safe and we're okay. So calls. The conversation maybe was like, I don't know, 2 seconds long. He goes, we're fine. We're going to be heading home soon. Didn't say where we were, didn't say what we were doing, just said that we were safe and that we were going to be heading back. At this point, we're walking into a club. I'm not having a good time anymore because, you know, I'm still on my vitamins and freak the fuck out at this point. We're in this club for maybe less than an hour because at this point the night is ruined and no one, like, I'm not having a good time. My friend's like kind of not really having a good time. We're tired. We want to go home. So it's like 3 a.m. We drive back to my significant other's house. We stay there for the night because I'm terrified to go home. And finally, in the morning, we go home. My parents are like, what the fuck was that? What was that? Where were you? What were you doing? All of these questions. So I tell them partially the truth. I say, yeah, I was at a concert. I did leave the state. And no, I didn't want to tell you because you would have said no. So I just did it anyway. And it's kind of funny now looking back. The consequence to that was me losing my phone for like a week. And maybe after like 2 or 3 days, like my mom gave it back to me because she's like, well, I need to text you. So here, have it. And then we had to like rake leaves or something. It was really stupid. And we honestly couldn't have cared less because that was not the last time. That was actually the first time that we did something a little like crazy like that. And it was the start to a great, not a great senior year, but like a very eventful one. I will say the least. But yeah, that was the time that I did lie to my parents, hop states, went to a rave, did some vitamins, and lived to tell the tale. They didn't kill me. I thought they were going to. It was a lot less punishment than I thought was going to happen. But yeah.
Okay, I need you guys to hear this story because it's crazy. So Monday, today's Thursday, I'm on a walk and I have my AirPods in. And this guy is walking by me and he's signaling me to take my AirPods out. So I do. And he's like, hey, I think you're really cute. Can I get your number? And I was like taken back. I'm like, kind of random, but okay, slay. This guy has confidence. Give him my number. He's like, I just moved here from New York, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I can tell you're busy. I'll just text you. I'm touring apartments. So then we're like kind of texting. He's like, the place in Venice turned out to be terrible. Got a place in Hollywood Hills. I'm like, okay, this guy seems normal, fun. He knows what he's doing. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that happened. He's like, it's cool. Everything happens for a reason. Let's meet at the Georgian tomorrow. I can do 6:30. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll see you there. Guys, I woke up this morning to this text. I don't know if you're ready because I was not. I have good and bad news. In a twist of turn and events, my neighbor and I have fallen for each other. And we decided we should be together. You guys, he moved on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. They made things official last night. Leave me open to find who is perfect, you guys. This all happened in not even 48 hours. He moved Tuesday night, and it's Thursday morning, and he's texting me this. So yeah, I'm traumatized. I'm scared. He's blocked. He also I didn't even put his name in. He's random. So yeah, that's what happened to me this week.
Story time about how my ex-girlfriend accidentally fingered her friend on Halloween. So my girlfriend at the time, I'll call her Lucy. Lucy had hit my phone right when I was about to get off work, and she asked me to come over. She lived a little over 30 minutes from me, and I just was not trying to take the drive. Like, I was tired. I don't really like driving at night, so I was like, nah, but I'll see you tomorrow. She's like, okay, word. I'm gonna have a couple friends over then. Like, it's Halloween night, you know what I mean? Like, she's just gonna chill with her friends. I'm like, cool. I get off work, and my friend who lives literally like 2 minutes down the street from me, she asked me to smoke. I'm like, yeah, that's a drive I'll take. Like, you're literally right there. So I get to my friend's crib. We're just chilling, listening to music, smoking. And I'm texting Lucy throughout the night. I was there for a couple hours, and she's low-key, like, taking mad long to respond. But I'm trying not to be crazy, because I'm like, it's Halloween night, you're drinking, you're with your friends. Like, I don't want to be that person and be like, why the fuck aren't you answering me? I wrap it up with my friend. I drive home, and I knock out, because I'm faded. Next morning, Lucy calls me, and she's like, I gotta tell you something. I'm like, fuck. Like, what? What happened? It's like silent on the other line for a second, and she goes, I accidentally fingered Stephanie last night. What? Like, what? Nothing could have prepared me for that. She's like, I accidentally fingered Stephanie. She's using the word accidentally. She used it hella times. That shit started to piss me off. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, did somebody crawl up inside your body and control your fingers? How did you do that? Keep in mind, as far as I know, Stephanie is straight. That's a straight woman. I've known of her for a minute. They play ball together. So I'm like, I know who this is. What the fuck how did this happen? She tells me that they was drunk as fuck, and they were drunk and they got to kissing and she accidentally fingered her. But it's not even like that because Stephanie's straight. Telling this story now, like, I feel like Boo Boo the Fool, because it's like, it like literally does not compute. But at the time, I was just trying to like reason with myself. I'm like, okay, like, Stephanie's straight, like, she doesn't even like girls. Like, how much could it mean, you know? Like, she's straight, supposedly. I was obviously heated at first. This was my first time getting cheated on, and not the last with this specific bitch. But I was tight. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I've never accidentally fingered somebody. You know what I mean? I keep my goddamn hands to myself. So it just like, I wasn't understanding. Looking back, I'm like, this bitch played ball. So like, immediately like what's not clicking? But yeah, I'm just like, all right, the bitch is straight. You said you were drunk. It was an accident. So we're cool-ish. I ended up linking Stephanie. I'm realizing I called this bitch Stephanie, and the other bitch that she cheated on me with is literally named Stephanie. I was trying not to name drop, but fuck you, Stephanie, and fuck you, Lucy. Stephanie was there at the function, and she was kind of just like in the corner. I went up to her. I'm like, hey, Stephanie. The fuck? I wasn't even on no shit. I do not fight, but I'm literally just like, hey, like, I think she was not thinking that I was gonna be cool, but I'm like, girl, we could be we could be cool. You fuck my bitch, I fuck my bitch. Like, what is there to say?
Hi, my name is Rhea, and I've been no contact with my family for 7 years. And here's one of the longest running emotionally manipulative things that my dad did. Now, this one's kind of a long one, so hold down or put this to the side and just listen, because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that happen in a 10-year span that I'm condensing down for you into this. So this whole thing starts, I'm 7 or 8. I go home from school. I ask my dad, what can you tell me about my grandparents? I never knew them. I don't know their names. I don't know anything about them. So I'm trying to ask him, what can you tell me? He straight up goes, your grandma? Bipolar and schizophrenic? And leaves it at that. Now, one of the things that my dad would do, if I tried to ask him questions about his childhood or any personal questions about him before I was born or his parents, in order to steer me away from ever asking him questions like that, he would tell me the most egregious and horrible things that ever happened to him or his family members. And whatever you're thinking is like horrible and egregious, just double it. I'm telling you, I have secondhand trauma from a young age because of this. Now, as much as my dad would try to steer me away from ever asking him questions, I still never got the hint. And about a year after I asked him about his parents, I asked him again, what can you tell me about my grandma? I was more interested in her. She seemed like she had an interesting story, even though I didn't really fully understand what schizophrenia was at the time. But I asked him, and he says, you know what? Schizophrenia runs in the family, and it skips generations. And I kind of did the little math in my head, and I went, am I gonna have schizophrenia? And he went, yeah. Now this man gaslit me so well that I was convinced that I was gonna have schizophrenia. I was so convinced. Anytime we got into arguments or like little things happened, he would be like, it's because you're gonna be schizophrenic. I know it. I have to get the schizophrenia out of you. Like, he would do random things in terms of like discipline, and he would kind of move it into like it's because I'm trying to get the schizophrenia out of you. What? Now, this whole like, you're schizophrenic, you're gonna be schizophrenic thing lasted until I was about 12, and it kind of died off. And then it resurfaced when I was 14. Because when I was 14, my dad became convinced that I was on drugs. And he was so convinced that I did weekly drug tests. And not only did I have to do these drug tests every single week, I had to have the bathroom door open and my mom had to watch me do the drug test. Right? Pee in the little cup? Yeah. 14 having to do that. Never mind that. Not only was I on drugs and I was going to be schizophrenic. No. Now I'm going to unalive him. This man started Googling on the internet about other cases where children were unaliving either other children or other adults. And he became convinced that I was going to become one of those children. And not only was he just like keeping this to himself, no. He'd have to come into my room and tell me about the cases and tell me exactly what they did. I think he was projecting. Of course, anytime that this would happen though, when he would come in and tell me about these cases, I would always break down into tears, and I would try to convince my dad, like, no, I would never do that. Why do you think I would do that? And so it would become this kind of like emotional battle between me and him, where he would say that I'd hurt him so much over my childhood that he couldn't trust me. And then I'm over here being like, but I'm just a teenager. I'm just a child. Like, I wouldn't do that. Why do you think I would do that? Now, this whole thing kind of turns around from him gaslighting me into believing these things to him now having gaslit himself. Because we moved from our apartment to a house. House, wonderful. I love living in a house. I'd never lived in a house before. So this was great. We moved when I was like 15, 16. So wonderful. I was thinking fresh start. We could have a fresh start as a family. I could rebuild my relationship with my parents because my relationship was horrible at this point. We move into this house. Now the thing was, growing up my whole life, we were a very gun-heavy household. We had a decent amount. Before we moved, we were in the single digits. When we moved, we had like double digits. I know for sure it was in the double digits. Now the thing with this was we only had one safe. And instead of buying another safe, no, because this man was too stingy to buy another one, he would stash them all around the house. And then not only would he stash them, he would then come into my room, tell me about a case where a kid did something to another adult or another kid. And then he would be like, oh, just so you know, I moved them all around. Just want you to know. And then a couple months would go by and he would do it all over again, and he'd move everything around, and then he'd come back into my room where I'm peacefully doing literally anything else, and he'd be like, I just moved everything. But I know you're gonna unalive me in my sleep. And he started convincing himself so hard that I was going to wake up in the middle of the night and do something to him that he changed his motherfucking sleep schedule. He changed jobs. He changed jobs and his sleep schedule so he could be up at night. And this whole thing, I found out about him changing his sleep schedule months after he did it, because I, peacefully sleeping in my bed, wake up at like 1 or 2 in the morning. I'm like, I'm thirsty. I need some water. And I get up, I go out of my room. I'm like, why is the living room light on? And I go in there. Who's sitting on the couch? My dad. What does he say to me when I walk into the living room all groggy and like parched? He goes, this is why I stay up at night. To make sure you don't do anything. I was so confused. I literally was like, okay. And I turned around, I got my water, and I went back to sleep. What was I supposed to do? I was so confused. And at this point, I was already 17, and I was about ready to leave. I was so excited to run away from home. And yeah, I just remember it was just a doozy of a time to live at home with him.
Okay, let me tell you about one of the craziest dating stories I've ever experienced. I really, to this day, cannot believe that this happened to me. I'm truly shocked and appalled. Anywho, so let me set the scene. It is December. It is California. I met this guy in a dating app. He lives an hour away. I'm a Christian, and I go to a church that either people love or people hate, okay? That's basically the gist of it. Sorry, someone is backing up directly in the spot next to me, and that's a little bit awkward. I cannot lie to you. Anywho, so, hello, America. We go on a first date. We go to Christmas lights. How cute. We're just like walking around. We get hot chocolate, and it's a great first date. It's very normal. It's very chill. It's very wonderful. And then, you know, I'm very upfront about a lot of things in dating, and he was on board with all of them. And I was like, oh, period. That's wonderful. He drove an hour to see me. You know, planned the date, like, got a babysitter for his son. Did I say that he had a son? I don't know if I did, but got a babysitter, and like was like, no, I want to take you on a date, and was very intentional. And I was like, oh, my stars in heaven, this is amazing. This literally never happens for me. Nobody ever puts in effort. It's great. It's great. And then we go on a second date, and the second date is he brings his child. And that's really crazy to me. I'm like, the second date, we met on a dating app. Like, I didn't know you before. And so it's just a little bit awkward. No, not awkward, but like, that is really crazy that you would do that. You know, but not my circus, not my monkeys, and certainly not my place to judge. So, he starts like acting a little bit weird, and I was like, okay, I think I know what's coming, and I get it. You know, I understand. And he has to call me, and I was like, of course. And I was like in Target, and he was like, well, listen, I just know you find me really attractive, and like, I wouldn't want to, you know. And I said, oh, you can stop it right there, buddy. You can stop it right there. You don't ever have to worry about that. You don't ever have to worry about that. No. I know how to control myself. And mainly, sir, you're 6'5". That's what's really attractive about you. I know that makes me sound like a terrible person, but it's my honest truth. And then he decides, he's like, you know what, actually, I don't think I want, hello, America, I don't think I want my son raised around this church. And I was like, 100%, that's totally your prerogative. Like, you are raising your son the best way you know how. I get it. I don't want to stand in your way. I would never ask you to do anything different. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. I think he expected a little bit more of a fight, and I'm not going to do that. I'm so sorry. Especially when you're using your child as the way out. Like, that's your kid. You raise them how you want them. And then later that night, the next morning, middle of the night, I get multiple voice memos. Do you know what was in those voice memos? Literally what is going on. Do you know what was in those voice memos? Tears. Yeah, he sent me multiple voice memos, multiple minutes long, of him crying. I actually do think I want you. I think I don't. well, sir, I do hate to break you down. It's completely off the table. And I'm blocking you on everything, and I'm terrified. I'm terrified. I don't need that kind of behavior. And then, I think this year or last year, he found my TikTok, and the richest of all rich, he was like, he commented on one of them. He's like, you deserve a wonderful man who, and I said, oh, buddy. He didn't recognize me. At least I don't think he did. And I said, that is crazy coming from you. Crazy coming from you. And my shorty was commenting that on a video. But I blocked him, so I think the comment's gone. But insane. Truly insane. Craziest dating story I think I've ever experienced. Well, there might have been another crazier one, but I don't know, it was a roller coaster.
7 years ago, I got married to my husband, and last February, I had an affair. A lot of you guys are asking me why I had an affair, and I think that that's not the right question to ask, because there's not a reason that I had an affair. The question is more like, how did that happen? How did somebody go from being somebody who wouldn't do something like that to having an affair? And I think there's a lot that goes into that, and it can't be told in one reel. And I'm not going to do a timeline of what happened and how I got there, but I will give a little bit of a high level perspective of what happened and how I got to the point that I had an affair. So I am very into remodeling my home. I have always been into the art of taking something that is not beautiful and making it beautiful. And when I got married to my husband, he moved into my house. It was my home already. And that love and joy that I got continued, and I love doing it. And I would always try to recruit him to help me do my projects. He is a welder, and so he was capable of doing the things that I needed help with. But that became a problem for him because he felt like I wanted too much from him. It became a point of tension between us. Like, I wanted him to build things and I wanted him to do things for me, and I would have these big grandeur visions, and he would be the one that I would go to because I wanted him to make it happen. And that became a problem. He felt like this has been an actual conversation that him and I have had. He felt like I treated him like a worker, which I didn't feel like that. I felt like he was my husband and he was capable of doing these things, and I wanted him to help me with my visions. And so we came to a point where the tension that it caused for me to go to him became too much. And I decided that I was going to find somebody else to help me create these visions that I had in my head. That meant I was going to hire somebody to come in and build my dreams for me. It wasn't going to be my husband, it was going to be somebody else. And that's where it all started. 7 years ago in February, I got married. And last February, my affair was discovered. This is part 2 of the how. A lot of you have asked why, but I think the question is more appropriate of how it happened. So after I hired this person to come in and help me with my visions at the time, the particular project I was working with was remodeling my kitchen. I'm very hands-on, and I was involved. Like, I was there with the person who was remodeling my kitchen, and I told him what I wanted, and he made everything that I wanted happen. And a friendship evolved over time with this person who was working in my kitchen and working with this project. And we started talking on the job. We started developing a friendship that was really refreshing in my mind, because it was something that I didn't have with my husband. And I quite honestly would have liked that with my husband. But a lot of times I felt like my husband just would kind of close me out when I tried to have conversations with him. Like I said, I do not and am in no way trying to be a victim in this. And I know that I'm not a victim. And I want to be clear that I understand that I take full responsibility. But I do want to say also that there were things that led to my vulnerability in this situation. And the fact that a man came in and wanted to hear my thoughts and wanted to listen to my dreams, and even though I was paying him, make them come true, it was very appealing and attractive. And that was something that I was definitely missing in my marriage. So it was alluring, and I was very susceptible to that. And so one thing led to another, and I had an affair with this man who was helping me remodel my house. We went from remodeling my house, my kitchen, to he started helping me remodel other things. Then him and I and another one of my friends got into a business where we got a house that we completely remodeled together. And it was just, it was like, it was a connection that I desperately wanted with my husband and didn't have. And somebody else came in and offered me like a bouquet of roses, all these things that I wasn't getting from my husband. And that's how easy it was to have an affair. And like I said before, I'm sorry that I can't not smile in this. It's not because I feel a lack of remorse or regret. It's just because it's a matter of fact. I mean, these things happen so easily without even wanting it, without seeking it out. And honestly, I intend to talk a lot more deeply about small things that transpired over the course of my marriage, and things that I feel like could have helped avoid this situation in hopes to maybe benefit somebody else in the future. A lot of things that I learned for myself, because I definitely would never want this to happen again to myself in any future relationship. I would never, ever in a million years want to ever do that to somebody else. But that is the high level of what happened and how it happened. And it was actually quite easy to tell the truth. When you are somebody who wants that and you're not getting it from your husband, if somebody else comes and offers you that, it's like offering a cold glass of water to somebody who is stranded in the desert. It's very hard to turn down. And that was me, unfortunately. And to the detriment of my marriage, to the detriment of my husband's happiness, I completely blew up his life, and he didn't deserve what I did to him. I just want to be clear, and I haven't said it up to now, but I want to say it now. My husband, my ex-husband, is a very good man. He is fun, and he's kind, and he's honest, and he is a very, very honorable person. We had problems in our marriage, of course, and I was not getting the things that I wanted from him, that I desired from him. But that didn't take away the fact that he was a good man. And I hurt him in ways that he will always carry with him. And I will always have to live with that. But that does not take away from the fact that he is a good man, and he did not deserve what I did to him. So just, that's what happened, for those of you who are curious. And I will go into more depth about some of the problems we had and how they happened, and, you know, things that might be of use to others, that I feel like, you know, conversations I have with myself while I'm taking showers and stuff like that. But that's the high level. That's the gist of it. If you want to follow along, you're more than welcome. A lot of you guys have asked if I have children, and yes, I do have children. I have 2 children with my ex-husband, and I also have a son who I had from prior to my marriage. I was never married before, but I had a child. I had a son who I raised from birth. My son, my previous child, I raised him from birth completely independently on my own with no support. And I think that plays a big role that I'm going to talk about in the dynamic of my relationship with my husband. I think that I was very, very independent coming into a marriage, and I was the provider and the protector. And I think that a man is supposed to be the provider and the protector, and I didn't relinquish that role to him from the beginning. And I think that that played a huge role in the disconnect that him and I had. He moved into my house when we got married. It was my house. I was the one who was more financially stable than him. So going into the marriage, I think that it was kind of a losing battle for him from the beginning, because he didn't have the financial stability to pick me up and carry me away like a knight in shining armor. So I still had to do that. But every man wants to feel like he is the one taking care of her and being the provider and the protector. I think most men do. I mean, some men probably want a woman to come in and provide and protect for them, but the kind of men that I would be interested in, that I would want to provide and protect me, but he wasn't in a position where he could do that. And I was in the position that I had been doing that for so long, for so many years, that this is a whole new video that I will talk about. I think this is a huge, important dynamic of the whole failure of my marriage from very early on. So this is a topic for another reel.
Get ready with me while I tell you how I got fired from my job after 6 weeks. So to set the scene, I worked for a catering company that also owned 2 wedding venues downstate, and they hired me as their marketing director and social media manager. It was a hybrid position, so kind of make your own schedule, work in office whenever, work from home primarily, and go to events on the weekends to shoot content. I guess I should start with the interview. So it started with a phone interview. That went well. They scheduled me for an in-person interview the following week, and they hired me on the spot, which is a red flag for sure. Later that night, he is the owner, my boss, or he was my boss, the one who hired me. He had emailed me a job proposal, not a contract, a proposal. I never signed anything. But in the interview, he said, I understand that you don't have any hospitality experience, because I didn't. I don't have any wedding industry experience, catering, nothing like that. He's like, I understand you don't have any hospitality experience, and that's okay. I'm not expecting any solid progress until about 3 months in. Okay, we can do that. So I started, I think, the following week. Another big red flag that was said, I believe it was either in the interview or on the first day. He was talking to me about the girl that they hired for this position before me that didn't work out. I think it was like a year prior. He gave me her name, which is awful. Literally gave me her full name. Told me all these bad things about her, like, oh, she just like didn't get it. I feel like I had to hold her hand through things. It was like 3 months in and she hadn't made a single post yet. She just like definitely took advantage of the position, blah, blah, blah. I thought that was very inappropriate for him to be saying that to me. And it was multiple times that he was talking about this poor girl. And his other staff would talk about her to me too, which I just didn't really like that. He said to me, I don't want to hold your hand through this process. I just want you to do it. I want you to just take the initiative to do things. Okay, well, here's the thing. You have to give me, I understand like not wanting to hold my hand through things, but maybe a daily task list would be nice. There was no daily task list ever. I was kind of just thrown to the wolves in every aspect. So there was no like expectation of me. I didn't even know what I was supposed to be doing, to be honest. I was just kind of doing what I thought would be helpful. So I'm like thinking of marketing campaigns. I'm thinking of content ideas. I'm constantly on Pinterest. One task he did actually assign to me was to scout out a new website developer. So I spent a lot of time doing that, making calls with website developers and website designers and things like that. And he never liked anybody that I came up with, but that's besides the point. That was like a big red flag for me. Was I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. I was just doing what I thought I should. And he always said to me, I don't want to hold your hand through things, so why would I ask him, you know? Their social media accounts were pretty underperforming. They didn't have a lot of followers on any of their accounts, so I would propose ideas of ways to grow their accounts, just like with my own experience on ways I've grown my accounts in the past, like my boutique account, my personal account. I kind of know what it takes to gain a little bit of a following. And he never liked any of my ideas. He would always shoot them down. He would always say, this isn't a documentary. We're not trying to document anything. We're just trying to create good content of food, like boring, just like luxury food content that nobody's gonna give a shit about, whatever. So he never liked any of my ideas, which is totally fine. I think one of the big things that made him want to fire me was I drove an hour and a half downstate to one of their venues to do like behind the scenes kitchen content of them plating food, and I took the time to do that, edited the videos for hours, sent it to him, hey, what do you think? And he just like literally went off how much he didn't like it, how we don't need to be documenting what goes on in the kitchen, and like literally just like wasn't going about it in a nice way. And I'm like, okay, whatever, that's totally fine, I can take that. But yeah, so he didn't like that. Like he was just very nitpicky about things too, but it's hard because if you don't have a solid expectation for me, I don't know what to give you. So I can't really read your mind. So I'm just trying out a lot of different things to see what he likes. Me into the wolves. He would send me to these events without any instruction. Just go shoot content. Okay, that can mean a lot of things. Whatever, moving on. I think what really did it for him was, so then I decided there was a shared folder of approved photos sent to me by other directors. Like, so other people have taken these photos, they're in a shared album to use for social media, website, whatever. So I took a photo that was in that folder. I didn't take it. It was already approved by somebody else. And it was a server at an event holding a platter. It was an appetizer. Their face wasn't in it or anything. It was literally just the platter of food, and their hand holding it. And so I edited it and I posted it, and he immediately emailed me and said, this missed the mark. All I can see is the ill-fitting latex glove on the server's hand. It's too big for them. It looks like a diaper, and just like went off. He's like, you need to be noticing these things, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I didn't notice. And I feel like if it was that big of a deal, I would have noticed. And how about, let's talk to the person who took the photo and approved it to be in the shared folder. And how about, let's buy your servers some gloves that fit them. How about that? All I said back was, okay, didn't notice that, sorry. I will look out for next time. But also, I could have just edited that out. Like literally AI could have fixed that, but he doesn't know that. Okay, so anyways, moving on. Immediately after that, he sends me an email saying, I need a full rundown of your daily objectives and how many hours you're working in a day. I have gotten screwed over in the past by people taking advantage of this hybrid position, talking about that girl. And I just want to make sure I don't run into that again. So I'm like, what? So immediately I have to go in and think about everything I did because that was another thing. I wasn't expected to make this. Like, I was never asked to track hours. I was never asked to track what I'm doing or anything like that. So I had to go through and think about every little thing I did the week before and how long it took me. Obviously, I don't know. I literally have no idea how long I worked the week before. So it took me an hour and a half, and I went through and logged everything I did from the week before and sent it to him. And he immediately emailed me, or no, he called me. He called me right after and said, hey, this isn't going to be a good phone call. I think we need to go our separate ways. I'm underwhelmed with your job performance, blah, 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 blah. Please return any equipment you have. And I was too stunned to speak. I literally just said, okay, thank you for the opportunity, blah, 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 goodbye. Obviously, he had already made up his mind, so I wasn't going to question him or fight him on it. Come back for part 2.
I tried to post the part 2 of this video so many times, but TikTok keeps removing it. I don't know what happened, so just gonna refilm it. Part 2 on how I got fired after 6 weeks. So after that phone call, I was literally just speechless. I was immediately just like panicked, sad, angry, like all the feelings. So obviously I called my mom. When Blake got home, I told Blake, I told my best friends, and everybody unanimously was just pissed, like astonished, like what, so confused how somebody, the owner of a company, could handle things so poorly and like that. Good as fuck. This is good. So after talking to everybody, I just become pissed. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like, what the fuck? Like, how could somebody handle the situation like this? And this just doesn't make sense. Like, this is just so out of the blue for me. Like, it was out of the blue. I was not expecting this at all. He had just ordered me a company credit card. He had given me my own office. Like, he was doing things that made it feel like I was there to stay. So for him to just rashly fire me, it was like crazy. So anyways, he asked me to return the equipment I had. I literally had like a gimbal, whatever. So I'm like, oh, I'll return it. So I go to return it like 2 days later, hoping to run into him to give him a little piece of my mind. Unfortunately, he wasn't there, so I wrote him an email. And it was professional, but it probably made him shit his pants. So basically, I was just like, I returned the equipment at this date at this time. I've had a lot of time to reflect over the last few days, and I would just like to express how incredibly unprofessional this entire process has been from the start. I was not set up for success in this role. You and I can both agree that you threw me into the wolves. There were no daily expectations, no daily tasks list. There was nothing expected of me that I knew of anyways. And I tried my best. I worked in person as much as I could. I would go to events every weekend. Every Saturday I was going to a wedding to shoot content. I feel like it was really unprofessional how you went about this. There was no warning of the termination of my role. The least I deserved was a meeting, a conversation, a performance improvement plan, if you really thought I was underperforming. And then I said a casual phone call is not what I consider professional. I said some other things, and then I ended it with, and lastly, I'd like to thank you for letting me go because I would never want to work for a company so immoral. Send. He immediately responds, and I didn't open it until about a week later just because I got off my chest what I needed to. I knew whatever he had to say back was only to hurt me or be condescending, and mentally I couldn't handle it at the time. So I opened it a week later. I have mixed feelings about not responding right away. Like, part of me is like, oh, I should have responded so that I could like really clear my name. But I'm glad I didn't because what do I have to gain? Like, what do I have to gain at this point from doing that? But what he responded was, thank you, Lauren, for returning our equipment. Ironic of you to question our company's ethics when you were the one clearly taking advantage of a hybrid position. I went through your Google Analytics and it shows that you weren't working nearly as many hours as you claimed. This type of position or this type of job isn't meant for everybody. Best of luck to you.
And that's why I wish I would have responded, because I could have been like, you, like, here's the thing about geriatrics, like him, they are so out of touch, like so incredibly out of touch. He has no idea that I don't use, okay, so I had a Google account with them for my email. The only thing I used it for was obviously emailing people, if we had a Google Teams meeting, which was once a week, and if I had like an Excel spreadsheet that I needed to do something on. Everything else I do is on Safari. I have a MacBook. He knew I had a MacBook. Everything else I do is on Safari, or apps like Canva, Adobe, Pinterest, like literally like the social media apps. Like nothing I did was on Google. But he doesn't know that, or maybe he does and just needed an excuse to fire me. I'm going with that. I think that was his like proof of reason enough to fire me. So, but still, even if that were the actual case, if you were actually worried about how many hours I was putting in, all you have to do is have a conversation with me. Hey, I'm a little concerned about the hours. I don't think you're working enough hours, blah, 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 blah. That's all he had to do. Instead, what he did was set me up for failure by saying, hey, go through everything you did last week and send it to me. And if they don't match up with your Google Analytics hours, you're fired. That's literally what he did. But regardless, all he had to do was have a conversation if that were his true worries. I don't think they were. I think he wanted to just fire me because he was very, like, he was so quick to move on to the next thing. Like, everything was in a rush. I think he hired me hoping that I would make miracles happen and make his accounts grow within a month. His accounts were very low performing, like I said. And stuff like that takes time. I also don't think we vibed on like the same idea of what his social media should be. But yeah, we just had very different ideas because there were never clear expectations, whatever. So ultimately, yeah, I think I dodged a major bullet, because could you imagine if I worked for him any longer, what I would have dealt with then? But yeah, he was always so quick to move on to the next thing. He was always very pushy, like he'd have an idea, run with it, like he could never make up his mind, and that is a very exhausting type of person to work for. Very exhausting. And so honestly, like I felt relieved. Like when I was done working for him, like I actually felt relieved, which I didn't expect that. But I think I just realized like something I thought I wanted so badly. I thought for a second that I wanted to be back in like the hustle and the grind of like working a full-time job, but I don't. Like I love being a stay-at-home mom, and I'm very fortunate and blessed that I am able to do that and raise my daughter and spend every day with her. And I think I needed to have a little taste of that life to realize like, no, this is where I'm meant to be, and I need to appreciate that, just embrace that. So yeah, I think everything happens for a reason, for sure. And I think that was it. I think I was meant to have that job for that short period of time to be like, you don't actually want this. Like you don't. Because being home, working from home on my laptop when I could be spending time with Luella made me feel very guilty. Being away made me feel guilty. And it just wasn't worth it. So yeah, moral of the story, never work for a man. Look out for red flags when you're applying to jobs. There's multiple red flags I could give about this man and just this company. So let me know if you want them. But yeah, that is how I got fired after 6 weeks.
You want to know something crazier about this whole thing? My sister's killers, they even answered her phone. And the police, they have the recordings. Now in the background of the conversation, you could hear my sister just making these moans and groans and stuff like that. So my sister's friend is like pleading with the people. And she's just trying to gather some information. And so she's just trying to be all cool, who are you and where are you from and what's going on? And, and the woman identifies herself as T, somebody named T. There was also an apparent man in the background. So during this time, my sister's friend is just trying to gather all of this information. So she's like, where are you? Just bring my, just take my friend to the hospital. She doesn't sound like she's okay. She sounds like there's something wrong with her in the background. The problem is that we live in Michigan and she lives there. So it looked as if she didn't have any family around. So she said, okay, So they said, okay, meet us in this neighborhood. And then we will give you, we'll get the money, and then we'll give you back we'll give you back Kayla. So at this point, we spring into action, y'all. We spring into action. We end up calling the police because they called and said, okay, we're finally here. We're in this neighborhood that they said that they were going to be in. And we called the police. The police messed up. Oh my God, they messed up. They ended up calling my sister's phone and identifying them as the police, identifying themselves as the police, calling, doing a wellness check. And from that point forward, they never answered the phone again. By the time the police arrived to the area in which they claimed that they had already drove off, and they were no longer there anymore. So the police scared them away. That was a full 24 hours before they actually found my sister in the backseat of her car. So this here sparked a whole series of events. From this point forward, I have a cousin that actually lives out in the Virginia area. And he literally drove, he lives in Virginia, but he literally drove down each and every street in the same area. It was over by Howard Hospital out in DC. Drove out and drove up and down each and every one of these streets to try to find my sister's car. And when I say it took him about 2 hours, but he ultimately found the car. He found the car in this neighborhood. And it was outside of this house. Now, what's crazy is that he pulled up at the exact same time as the police pulled up. The police, they were coming out to investigate a suspicious vehicle that was being parked outside of this person's home. They had called the people that lived there. They had called on this vehicle they called in the morning. Late in the morning, like almost like 2 a.m. They heard some arguing. They heard some things happening outside their window. They looked outside and they saw somebody run from the car. And then they called when they woke up the next morning in order to go to work. They called the police saying that the vehicle is still there. Nobody came to check. Then they called one more time when they got off work. When they got off work, the vehicle is still there, and they called again. So we're talking about 4 opportunities for the police to have actually shown up and caught the killers right in action. Or I don't know if in action, but they would have caught them like really with my sister right there still living. Unfortunately, those calls weren't taken serious either because my sister laid literally in the backseat of the vehicle for an additional 24 hours without anybody coming to do a wellness check on that car. When the police showed up, y'all, let me tell you what they saw. No, better yet, let me show you what they saw. Now, normally I would never show this type of information. I would never be this candid, but it's like desperate times calls for desperate measures. And I'm like, I have exhausted it all. I have got to put this out here. Like, this is ridiculous. So when they came, she was obviously, as you guys could tell, she was non-responsive and looked like she was just clinging on to life. And the EMT, they tried to communicate with her. She was unresponsive verbally. And then when she got to the hospital, the doctor also said that they told me personally that she was unresponsive and not verbally communicating at all. Yet the police, they say they have it on video cam that she said that she fell down the stairs. So I found that hard to believe because just as soon as I arrived to the hospital, there was no sign of any type of communication. And they said that there had not been any kind of communication from my sister. So I don't even know how she was able to say it. But fine. All right. I'll just take that. Let's just assume that she indeed said that she fell down the stairs. They're using that as her last dying will and testament. So they're saying that they can't really do a whole lot because she said that she fell down the stairs. Now, the medical examiner, they did say that they ruled that it was a homicide. So the fact that the DC homicide department, they're just taking this information and running with it, seems like they really don't want to do the work. They just want to close the case and call it a day. Now, I hate to tell somebody how to do their job or anything like that. I hate that. So please forgive me for anybody in law enforcement out here listening. But I'm like, what happens to people who are in some type of, what if they're scared and they actually, and what if she did say that and she was scared? Because if she actually said those words, then she was obviously scared for her life. So maybe she did say that, but doesn't that warrant any further investigation? Like, really exhaust every single opportunity to figure out who did this? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, when I tell y'all that this has been the hardest fight of my life, like, the police have let us down in so many ways. They didn't even investigate it as a crime, as any type of criminal action in the first, actually, they didn't even investigate it as a crime until she actually died. They were just still trying to figure out what happened, is what they kept saying, that it didn't look like it was a crime because she verbally said, and they had it on video cam, that she fell down the stairs. So anyway, it just seemed like from the beginning, they really didn't want to work, that they just wanted to try to hurry up and get something off of their caseload. And it just didn't seem like it was fair. It's like, what are we paying for? The tax dollars that we're paying for, it's not even going towards our safety like it's supposed to. All in all, I just feel so let down and so failed by the system. You know, we truly believe that when we walk out, we have this false sense of security to some degree, that the law is going to protect us, and that if something were to happen to us, then the police are going to come. They're going to do their job. They're going to do everything that we've always been taught that they're going to do for us. And then when it doesn't happen, it's so disheartening. I mean, it really does break your heart, you know, to be in a situation where you're just absolutely powerless, you know, outside of talking about it on, you know, platforms like this. It's like her story never gets told. I never hear it. I've heard countless times from people that are actually in the DC area that they've not heard anything about this story. The police, they were supposed to have put up signs asking for information with rewards and things like that. And to this day, they've not put up any type of sign. They've not put up anything. And you know, when I say that the lack of responsiveness is just so disheartening, we literally, my mother and I, you know, bless her heart, she is trying to hold on as best she can. You know, we hadn't heard anything from the DC police in, let's say, months. So we literally flew out there, went to the precinct. And do you guys know that the homicide department, they literally didn't even come downstairs and even acknowledge our presence. They told us that they would call us Monday morning. Like, nobody's here to actually come down and acknowledge the fact that we're here. Like, nobody. Oh, y'all, I'm telling all my business today. But anyway, for more content like this and to help just bring some type of resolution to my sister's passing, untimely passing, please share, you guys, boost this. Justice for Kayla. She was abducted, held for ransom. The police knew about it, and this is how we found her. You may be asking yourself, how did we get here? Well, these are the facts. So on February 27th, 2022, my mother gave me a call saying that my sister had just met someone that she took into her personal space. I called my sister to confirm, and she indeed told me that she met a woman by the name of T that had a baby that was in a domestic situation, and she needed some safekeeping. So my sister led her into her personal room. I then called my sister, and she then confirmed that she did in fact meet a woman by the name of T with a baby, and that she was in a domestic situation and that she needed somewhere safe to sleep that night. Unfortunately, I told my sister that I didn't think that that was a really good idea. Don't let anybody into your personal space. But my sister, with the kind heart that she had, she didn't listen to my warning, and she proceeded to try to help this lady. Unfortunately, that was the last time that we ever spoke with my sister alive. So on March 7th, my sister's job called saying that she hadn't reported to work all week. That was really strange because my sister, she worked for a nonprofit organization in Washington, D.C. And she really, really loved her job. She was so proud of it. So the fact that she hadn't been to work all week, that was alarming to us. After multiple attempts of trying to contact my sister once we realized that she had been missing, finally they answered the phone for her friend.
Right, so, like, I'm telling Kayla, I just lost my mother. I just buried my mother and my 3-year-old.
I'm
like,
so
at the end of the
sorry.
day, I feel for Kayla. But for her to tell me she don't have nobody and y'all going crazy over her, I'm telling her,
T, take a breath for me. Take a breath for me. Try to breathe for a second, because I know you're going through some shit. I know you're going through some shit dealing with her. No, because you got shit on your plate, too. Just pause and take a breath, right? Just pause and take a breath for a second.
it's like, since I met Kayla, like, I just felt like I had family. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I told Kayla, like, if I consider you my family, bro, I don't care what you got going on in your mind. I'm not gonna watch you fall.
I'm sorry to interrupt y'all, but first of all, you consider my sister your family, yet you beat her, you stuff her in the backseat of a car, you ride around with her for an entire week, yet you consider her your family.
She took money from me and said she had no money. Her friend called me, someone named Johnny, talking about she said she got paid and all that.
First off, how in the world did my sister take money from you if, according to you, she just got paid? But my question is how did you know that she just got paid?
I'm like, Kayla, I'm not the one that's going to argue with you because I see where you're at. Like, at the end of the day, we're both going through something. Like, we supposed to stick together and we call each other fake sisters. Like, you had family that's going crazy over you and you're just sitting right here telling me, like, you're going to drop that? Like, I didn't even know she had a job, and I hear her mom say it. Like, I'm just concerned. Like, I don't know. And it's like, Kayla knows that she's been helping me and I've been helping her, but I don't want her going down the wrong path. It's nothing I can say. Like, I've tried helping her in the shower. I've even bathed Kayla. Like, I really have grown to love her son.
So you guys, can we talk this through a little bit? So, first off, I don't know how she is proclaiming to have talked to my mother, because my mother hadn't talked to my sister since February 27th. We are now at February 27th, 2022. We are now at March 7th of 2022. And this is the first time that we are actually hearing anybody that has any type of connection with Kayla right now. So I'm not quite understanding that. So y'all, the police have this clip. Another question I have is, T mentions that Kayla tried to call the police on her. Is there any record out here that talks about a police report being filed for my sister Kayla calling in during this time period? That's what I want to know. You guys, the fact that she keeps saying that Kayla was like a sister to me, that I'm looking out for her. You guys, my sister did not know this woman. She literally met her February 27th. I know it because I spoke with her myself. She had no reason to tell me no lie. She could have told me that she met her 10 years ago, 2 weeks ago. Why did she tell me that she met a woman by the name of T in a parking lot that day with a baby, and she was bringing her in for safekeeping? That makes no sense. You guys, let's focus in on the police for a second. Why aren't they even considering these audio recordings that we sent over? I mean, really. I mean, they have the person who's identified themselves repeatedly as the name T. We have locations being dropped. We have all of these things. But the police say because my sister gave her last dying testament saying that she fell down the stairs, that That's all they have to go off of. Now, you guys, I don't know how she could have fallen down the stairs. First off, did you see in the video where her hands, they were up like this? That's a trauma response. And not to mention, did you guys hear the moans and groans in the background? Like, I don't even understand how she could have articulated anything else outside of what we just saw. Whew, I'm running out of time and I still got more makeup to do. So I'm going to do a part 2. You guys, stay tuned to the part 2. There is another set of audios that you still haven't heard yet. Justice for Kayla. I am showing up every single day until justice for Kayla is served, period.
I'm going to go down a full timeline. I came into this relationship with 2 previous kids. They are currently 12 and 8 from my ex-husband that I was together with since high school. We just didn't work out. We have a great co-parenting relationship. So that's where the confusion starts with that. I met my second baby daddy, because this is the one we're talking about. I met him in Hawaii. I am born and raised from Hawaii. I've lived here my entire life, aside from like college, and my 2 kids born and raised here. So I've always been in Hawaii. I never moved to the mainland. I never took my son away from anyone. I have always lived in Hawaii. I met my ex in Hawaii while he was here on a work trip. We then were long distance for 4 to 5 months while he lived in the mainland, and I would fly back and forth every couple of weeks to go visit him. The relationship, it did seem too good to be true now that I think about it. Everything that I posted, because I really was in love, and everything that I posted was 100% true. Like, I really felt like he was just a dream. And I should have known better, but I think I just felt like I had done so much work on myself and I was so happy in my life and just in my own little world that I didn't find it odd that he proposed to me after like 5 months. So he proposed to me and got me pregnant. And right when he got me pregnant was when things started to go south. And now I know what coercive control is. Like, now looking back, I'm like, wow, you were really a dumbass, naive bitch. But we're past that. He was never abusive up until I got pregnant. And then when I got pregnant, he used my pregnancy against me, belittled me, treated me horribly. I was extremely sick, and he just told everybody that I was fucking insane and crazy, and really I just needed help. I was very pregnant and had a really rough first trimester. He told me I was so crazy and tried to diagnose me himself with bipolar and what is the BPD? What is it called? Borderline personality disorder. And he convinced himself and everyone around us that I was mentally unstable. I now know that he was probably telling his friends all kinds of crazy things about me, because when we broke up, they flipped on me instantly. And I didn't understand it because I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, are we living in the same world? But I kind of know now that he probably was telling them crazy shit and lies from the start to kind of like anticipate the breakup, you know, so that when that happened, they already had a really bad image of me, but none of what he was saying was true to begin with. I am not the only girl that he did this to. There's a history that I didn't know until after we broke up, but it's my fault because I'm the dumbass that got proposed to him, got engaged with him, and got pregnant 5 fucking months in. Like, I really should have known better. My frontal lobe has since developed. I'm only 30 today, and this happened when I was like 27. So, you know, I'm sorry. I know that's not that big of a difference, but it is. I have since learned a lot. But yeah, we get it. Okay, that part is dumb. I should have paid more attention. It's too late. So the pregnancy was really hard. I had a really, really, really bad first trimester. I was very sick. Second trimester, I was living my best life. I was so happy. I was still flying back and forth to Hawaii. I have my 2 kids on Oahu, and he planned, this is the very important part, he was planning to move to Hawaii, okay? We looked for houses. We applied for houses. He was moving to Hawaii so I could be with my kids, my 2 kids, and him in Hawaii. So Hawaii was the end goal. Okay, his lease was up in September. I gave birth in June. His lease was up in September. So we were supposed to have the baby and then move. He was supposed to move to Hawaii. I already had a house. For years, born and raised, okay? My baby shower, the night of my baby shower, which my baby shower really was for him, not me, because we were fighting that morning. He went to the bar after because his family, his auntie and his mom got into a physical altercation at my baby shower because his auntie got so intoxicated that she was literally like trying to fight his mom. So like, I'm taking a picture with his mom and I'm fucking 10 months pregnant and his auntie's trying to physically attack his mom, okay? And I'm sitting next to her. I'm standing next to her taking photos. So he's so stressed out that this happened. He's so stressed out. Obviously, he just has to go to the bar and drink and hang out with his friends and leaves me at my baby shower by myself to clean up the baby shower and bring all the stuff back home, unpack and clean up I'm 10 months pregnant. Okay, this is my baby shower. This is how we spent. That's why if you follow me, there are no photos from my baby shower, because we fought all day and then he went to the bar all night and didn't come home till 3 in the morning. And this was like a regular occurrence. But what are you gonna do? I'm already pregnant, whatever. And at this point, I'm on my second baby daddy. So I am desperate to make this work. I'm not an idiot. I know how dumb I look having a second baby daddy and not working out. I know how that looks on me, and it fucking sucks. So for me, I was like, no, I need this to work. I will literally do anything because I'm so fucking embarrassed. I'm already making the same mistake again. Idiot. I get it. So I just let him treat me however he wants, and every single time I just forgive him. He's like sleeping at other people's houses because he just can't stand me, and me and my mom are both just like, dude, what the fuck is even going on? Whatever. Okay, so I give birth in the hospital. He is just so miserable because the bed is uncomfortable. The bed that he sleeps in is uncomfortable, so he's giving me a hard time. He sleeps throughout my labor. My mother has to wake him up because my epidural's not working, and my mom's like, hello, she literally needs help. My best friend is massaging my back, Shannon. She's massaging my back because he is just not helping me give fucking birth. The morning after I give birth, he goes to the gym, leaves me and the baby at home, leaves me and his 1-day-old baby in the hospital so that he can go to the gym and freshen up. So he goes home to shower, gets ready, goes to the gym, has his own morning while I'm in the hospital with my newborn, my 1-day-old baby. Whatever, okay? So it gets worse. At 6 weeks postpartum, I can finally fly again. So I go back home to Hawaii, and I stay home in Hawaii for like several months because he is just like in his own little mental, like he was fighting with this girl, Jill, online. And like I was in Hawaii at my son's football game. Like if you follow me, you know, like it was a big mess. He was like harassing this lady. She's not even a lady. She's like, I think like probably our age. She's not that much older, but like he's harassing her. I have no idea what the hell's going on. I'm just sticking by his side. I'm like rooting for him, standing up like 10 toes down for him, and I have no idea even what's going on. So that's my fault for like just blindly following him and not paying attention to the signs. And I was in Kauai at my son's football game when that went down, and I didn't even know what he posted until afterwards. That's a whole nother story. But I didn't really say anything. I kind of just I stayed out of it, but then like I did not like stand up for her, you know what I mean? So like I wasn't bullying her or harassing her or anything, but I definitely didn't like stand up for her and like tell him, because I didn't know what was going on. And like in our relationship, he just always had beef with everybody. He blocked all these people on my social media that I couldn't even make friends with before I even knew who they were, because he was like, oh no, these are not good people, like you don't want to be surrounded with them. Like he just convinced me that everybody around me was fucking horrible, and he would just block them. He'd make me block them, and I wasn't allowed to be like friends with them. And I was just like, oh my god, they're so horrible, like these people are so mean. Today, knowing what I know now I know that those people just knew things about him that he didn't want to ever get out. One of them being that he has a kid, a daughter that I've been talking about, but I didn't know about her. The whole world didn't know about her. And I think that these people knew this about him because they grew up with him and they've known him for years, and they like knew him, and I didn't know anything. So I think he was trying to prevent me from getting to know these people, because he knew that they would like rat him out and say things and send me things and try and like, you know, get me to turn on him. This is like a super fast version of what's going on, because like when I tell you I do not have time to do these videos ever, like I just sit in my car when I have the time. It's pouring rain outside. I'm doing it as fast as I can. But there's so much. This is extremely condensed. So whatever, he leaves me in the hospital. We go home from the hospital, and I go back to Hawaii, right? And I stay in Hawaii for several months with my kids while he goes and heals, because he says that he needs like some kind of retreat. Like he's talking about going to fucking, what is that place? Like Puerto Rico and like Costa Rica. That's what it is. He like needed to get away because his mental health was so bad, and like I just couldn't understand it. I was like, okay dog, like do what you gotta do. I support whatever you need. I even offered to pay for him to go. Like, oh my god, bitch, you so fucking stupid. Like I just supported him so much wholeheartedly and blindly. I just wanted him to be better. Like I genuinely wanted him to be okay so that he could be okay with us, with like his family. He said that he was not in the right mind space to move to Hawaii yet, but he was still going to, but he wanted to take a break and not rush things. So I was like, okay, bet, like you can stay in Denver. I'm still in Hawaii. I still have my place. Never in our relationship at any point was I moving to Denver, ever. And that's important because he filed for child kidnapping when I came back home to Hawaii, tried to tell people that I kidnapped my son, called the fucking people on me, whatever, CPI, whoever you gotta call, file, judges, told them I kidnapped my son, okay? That's a whole nother story. So the abuse just gets worse and worse. He is now at this point, like, not even hiding the abuse, because at first it was very, very subtle. But mind you, we're only like 6 months into our relationship. Like, at this point I had given birth, excuse me, let me take that back. At this point we had been dating for a year, but the baby's already like here. So like when we made 1 year anniversary, I was like 10 months pregnant. Do you know what I'm saying? So like you can pick up what I'm putting down on the timeline. I'm gonna have to go into part 2 where I talk about after I give birth and how horrible my postpartum was up until today. I give birth and the abuse is escalating, okay? My mom stays with us and she points out to me, I didn't realize this at first because I'm really just like a lover girl and I will do anything for my man. So I'm cooking, cleaning, meal prepping for him still. And I'm like a week postpartum. Like my vagina is bleeding heavily and I'm cooking and slaving for this man while he's at the gym and living his life. And yeah, I just, oh my God, ew, I'm such a pick me for that. That was just really embarrassing. That was my man. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do it for my man. Yuck. Anyways, I'm like so blindly in love and just like literally doing whatever he wants and he's taking full advantage of it. But then like simultaneously, he's also pushing me to a point where like he would bully me and like say horrible things to me and like push me to a point and then turn around and act like whenever I reacted, like I was the problem. And like I was very sleep deprived. I'm tired. I breastfed my baby till he was 18 months old. And I was up every 2 hours. And he would tell me, oh, I need to get sleep because I need to provide for us. And now I'm thinking about it and I feel dumb because he was saying that he needed to sleep so that he could go to work. But then he never paid any of my bills. So it's like, I'm confused. Like that was dumb of me. This is why I hate telling the story because the more I speak, the more I'm like, well, you really dumb as fuck, bitch. I got is Anyway, so he's sleeping and he has his, I swear to God, I have pictures of this, but I think it's really messed up if I upload the picture, but he used to sleep with he had earmuffs on and a eye mask on. He would sleep with this and this covering so that the lights and the baby crying wouldn't wake him up because he had to go to work. But it's funny because I also was working. So what about me? Yeah. So anyways, this continues and he is just treating me so fucking badly. And one time, this is the time that he told my mom and my best friend that I jumped out of a moving car. Okay, so we're arguing. We are going to Cheeseman Park, which is in Denver. We like lived in the city. We went to Cheeseman Park. We're driving. I had the baby in the car, whatever. He's getting really aggressive with me, screaming at me and stuff. And like we're just getting heated. And I'm like starting to get really heated too. And the thing with me is like, I do not do well when things are heated. Like I'm the type of person, like I have to walk away because if not, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit. Like I'm gonna lose my shit. So let me get out of this situation. Let me remove myself from the situation because I can feel myself getting activated and I really need to step away from the situation. So he comes to a stop sign, okay? Cheeseman Park is like, we lived on 17th and Cheeseman Park is right here. So it's walking distance and there's stop signs all along. It's like every 50 feet there's a stop sign because it's like in a neighborhood and it's a 4-way stop. So he comes to a stop sign. I get out of the car because I'm so fucking heated, okay? And I'm literally so postpartum. I'm like, I think at this point, like 2 weeks postpartum, like I still can't walk, right? I still can't walk. And I sit down on the curb and he proceeds to call my mom. Mind you, I got out of the car at a stop sign. He proceeds to call my mom and my best friend and tell them that I am suicidal and jumped out of a moving car and he's so worried about me and so concerned about me that like, you know, and this just goes to show like this is the kind of shit that he would tell people to make me look mentally unstable when that was never the case. And he just would always do this thing where I feel like he would push me and push me and push me and push me. And then like me, listen, I'm from Hawaii. Like, bitch, I can get down. I'll beat your ass. And so like, yeah, I could snap. And he'll push me to that fucking point. He'll push me to the point where I snap. I never did hit him though. Thank God. I would have been in jail. But yeah, no, so I would snap though. I would snap and I would fucking scream at him and yell at him and like, you know what I mean? Like I'm a local girl, I'm a titta, so, you know, yeah, I would lose my shit sometimes. But he would fucking record me without my consent. So he would push, abuse the fuck out of me. And he was so mean. He would call me horrible names. He would punch things, he'd get violent. One time he kept like ripping open the shower curtain when I'm trying to bathe and he's like ripping open the curtain. Like I don't even know what we were fighting over. And he like ripped open the curtain and like grabbed my hand and scratched me one time. He slammed the doors, my fucking fingers are getting stuck in the doors. And the judge, when we did go to court and I tried to claim domestic violence, the judge had said that there's not enough evidence to prove that when he slammed my fingers in the door that it was an accident. So they were saying, they were basically saying that they just weren't sure
if it was an accident or not, so they couldn't rule it domestic violence. So then he gets online, like today, now fast forward to today, he always claims like, oh yeah, she tried to say it was domestic violence, but the judge ruled that there was none. Yeah, because there was no fucking proof. Sorry that you didn't beat my ass and give me black eyes and bloody noses, but the abuse still existed. Okay, I kind of wish you did. Like, it's easier. I would have much rather gotten punched in the face because it's so much easier to heal from a fucking bruise. Hello? Please. So anyway, the abuse is just getting worse and worse and worse. And he just keeps recording me without my consent. A lot of the times I don't even know that I'm being recorded. So apparently when we were in therapy, when he broke up with me, he recorded me when he broke up with me. And then he would later use it against me in court and say that I was mentally unstable when I'm literally breaking down because I'm just a few months postpartum and you broke up with me in therapy. He ended up blackmailing me as well, and he did end up posting. So if you go on Reddit, I will actually post the video that he posted because I'm not embarrassed of it. Yeah, I lost my shit. You abused me and I reacted. My bad. And he would always do this thing too where like, okay, have you ever been in a situation where somebody just says so much dumb shit and you're like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm wrong. You're right. Yes, I'm crazy. Yes, I'm this. Like, just to get them to shut the fuck up. Okay, I would do that a lot. But what I didn't realize was that when I was falsely admitting all these things, because I would just say stuff to, he'd be like, you need to say that you're this, you need to say that you're that. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm abusive. Yeah, I'm crazy. Yeah, I'm like, are we done? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just really wanted to get the fuck out of the situation because I don't care. He would be recording me without my knowledge. He would be recording me. He'll like take the phone and put it in my face. Like, what was that? Say that again. Say it again. What did you say? Oh, you're abusive? Clocked it. You know what I mean? And it's like, ew, sassy. Like, you're a liar and you're manipulating and twisting what really happened. You're insane. So he blackmails me with all this shit. He ends up posting the video of me, gets himself canceled, blames me, tells me that I'm the reason why his career went down the drain. When in reality, this is the first time. It is 2026 and it's the first time that I'm actually telling people a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I did post things here and there when I was like crashing out. And then, but I never did say, I felt like I was always walking on eggshells and like not really saying anything. I feel like I was always just like, oh, I'm so sad. I can't believe this is happening. But I never like told anybody what happened. Like I never actually went into detail. So I really truly believe that he canceled himself because he posted that video that he like, one of the videos because he recorded me all the time. And he also recorded his exes too, because when we were in a relationship, when we first started, he used to tell me that his ex was crazy. Okay, if you know his ex, the one before me, she's a fucking saint. She's the sweetest, most baby doll, blonde hair, green blue eyes, like just the sweetest. Like there's no way that that girl is insane. If anything, you probably push. She literally does yoga and like she's the sweetest thing. Like if you know her, she's like, she literally looks like she doesn't even swat flies. Like she looks like she's the type to like literally pick up a fly and throw it out the window because she's afraid for them to like get hurt. And he told me she was crazy. She was batshit fucking insane. No. And he would always tell me, oh yeah, I have videos of her and I have recordings of her. He would tell me that all the fucking time. And I'd be like, y'all, dog, I don't want to see all that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really, that's not like, eh. And now I know that he probably does the same thing to me with his new girls and says, oh, I have all these recordings of her. And it's like, yeah, okay. So I don't even have beef with his new girlfriends. He dated this one girl, Maria, and I felt so bad for her. I just feel bad for any girl that gets involved with him because it's like, girl, you really do not know you are sleeping with the devil. Like, I can assure you, I'm a girl's girl and I really do not, girl, a man? You're gonna let a man get in between? Yuck. Like, even with bitches that I hate and can't stand, I'm still nice to them because I just think at the end of the day, like, that's somebody's daughter and, like, that's, like, my sister in another world. You know what I mean? Or am I the only one that's very woo-woo like that? Like, we're all very connected, you know, as a woman. I just can't. It takes a lot for me to hate a woman. So anyway, the relationship's getting worse and worse and worse. And it gets to a point where he breaks up with me. There's a lot of stuff that happens in between, but it's like, I literally, like, that deserves its own story time in of itself. So basically, when we break up, I go back to Hawaii. Duh, because that's where I live. And come to find out, he had premeditated this breakup. He had been talking to attorneys this entire time since the baby was born. Baby was only like 3 or 4 months old when we broke up. And he apparently had been planning this because by the time I got back to Hawaii, I got served the very next day. This shit takes, you can't just call your attorney and file something and have you served the next day. That's not how it works. So he had already written up something before he broke up with me. He just didn't know that I was going to go back to Hawaii. Like, I think he was trying to get me trapped in Colorado. Like, it's a good thing that I did go to Hawaii, because if I got stuck in Colorado, they were saying that they were just trying to take the baby away from me. They were claiming that I was mentally unstable and that the baby was in danger. There was a child abuse, child endangerment form motion filed against me. And they wanted the baby back to Denver within 72 hours. My breastfed baby, who he has never changed diapers, fed, clothed, anything, who's just a few months old, he's trying to take that baby away from his breastfeeding mother. Anyway, girl, and that is what jump-started our almost 2-year-long fight for custody. So, of course, the first lawsuit thingy that he ever filed against me was child endangerment. Well, no, the first one he did was to try and take the baby away, saying that I was mentally unstable, but the courts did not push that. They denied his motion. And then the second one was child endangerment, kidnapping, and all that, child endangerment and all that stuff. Which prompted an emergency hearing. So that was an emergency motion that they filed. And because I simultaneously filed for custody in Hawaii, I didn't know that he had already filed in Denver, so it caused jurisdictional issues. So for the next 6 to 8 months, we fought over jurisdiction. And that took almost $100,000 in itself in fees, just fighting over the jurisdiction. We had a hearing, what do you call it? Like a evidentiary hearing. And basically they wanted me to prove that I lived in Hawaii. It was like, I don't even remember at this point. We went to court so many times over so many different things. And all the while I'm telling him, hey, I will bring the baby back to Denver. You can pay me whatever you can. If you can't pay me, that's fine. If you can, then please do. For child support, I was like, you can pay me whatever you can afford. I asked him for $2,000, I think, at first, because at the time I was paying for childcare, the bills from the hospital. I was paying for so many things on my own that he told me he was going to help me pay. So we came to that agreement prior. And then when push came to shove, he was like, no, I'm not paying that. And I was like, that's fine. You don't have to pay it. I'm asking you if you could help. If you can't, that's fine. But I really did not want to go to court, because me and my first husband never went to court over stuff like this. It was very just you can have the kid this time, I can have him this time. Me and my ex-husband, we don't even do child support. If anything, if he needs money, I Venmo him all the time. We never fought over it, and we didn't care. We just didn't want to be with each other, and we just wanted peace, and we knew how important it was for both of us to be in our kids' lives, and none of us have ever tried to take our children away from each other. This is my first husband. But with this one, he was adamant. He wanted the baby. He didn't want me, but it's crazy because when I was living with him, he never did feed the baby. He never did bathe the baby. He never did clothe the baby. He never woke up in the middle of the night with the baby. He never spent a night with the baby. He didn't know how to take care of the baby. And now you're filing for full custody? So obviously we know it's not about the baby. It's about control. He wants to control me, yada, yada. He just wants to make things difficult for me. He's posting on social media, threatening me, telling everybody that we're broken up, posting these videos of me. He brought it to social media first. Publicly, because I did post on close friends, and nobody, still to this day, nobody saw my close friends except for the 5 hairstylists that were on there. But what happened was, a couple of the hairstylists that were on there that I thought were my friends had screen recorded it and sent it to him. So that's why he started posting on social media publicly. But I felt me telling my story, and mind you, I wasn't even talking shit. I was just crying because you broke up with me and I needed support. And I really don't think anything that I posted was a lie or horrible. It was all the truth, which is just that I was heartbroken. And he took that and he completely started this cancel culture campaign against me, smear campaign thing. And we're fighting over jurisdiction because and then this is another one, okay? So he knew that I was coming to Hawaii, but then he watched me buy it's just so fucked up. He had premeditated texted my girlfriend Shannon, because he knew that Shannon was coming to pick me up to take me to the airport, okay? This is the kind of shit he would do. So he knew Shannon was coming to pick me up from the airport, right? Or coming to pick me up to take me to the airport, okay? He goes and texts Shannon and goes, oh, hey, how's she doing? Talking about me, how is she doing? And then Shannon's like, oh, she's good. We just got to the airport. And he texts back, the airport? Oh, I didn't realize she was leaving. So he tried to plan it out and frame me and make it look like he didn't know I was going to the airport, when he watched Shannon pack my things up and watched me buy my ticket on my phone right then and there, because he told me to get out of the house. So I bought my ticket to leave that day because he told me to leave, and then proceeded to try and frame me and make it seem like I kidnapped my son. That's how he did it. Insane. Crazy. And And it's like, I don't have the resources or the time, or like, how do you, like, how do you can't talk like this in court. I can't just say, Your Honor, this is what the fuck happened. Court is very, like, you have to use specific terminology, you have to speak a certain way, you have to provide evidence a certain way, it needs to be labeled a certain way. Like, you can't just say, Your Honor, this is what happened, and show them screenshots. Like, half the time, they won't even accept it. So, yeah, like, if you haven't been in family court, don't tell me what you should have done or what I should have done. You don't understand that family court is a very dark, twisted, multi-billion-dollar industry to help. It's like the cancer industry. Do you really think that they're going to find a cure for cancer? I'm sorry, I don't. Because why would you cut off a multi-billion-dollar industry? It's same for family court. Why is it that when you commit a crime, this is the only court that does this. When you are in criminal court, right, and you commit a murder, you cannot be retried for that murder. Like, once it's done, okay, it's done. But with family court, they can take you back again and again and again and again. Family court is the only court that forces you to speak to your abuser. In any other court out there, if somebody harasses me like this, I get a TRO on them, no questions asked, they can never speak to me again. In family court, if I don't want to speak to my abuser, I'm an alienator. I'm a bad mom. I'm not giving my co-parent a chance. There are a lot of things that people don't understand because you've never been through family court, and thank God that you don't know. I'm so grateful that you don't understand what I'm talking about. But that's a whole nother story. So long story short, he drags it out. He's fighting jurisdiction. He's trying to tell them that I lived in Denver. He's trying to prove to them I had nothing in my name. Like, it was just so bizarre. We had to get a private investigator involved. Mind you, the private investigator in itself, she was like they call her a parental responsibility, a PRE, parental responsibilities evaluator. By the way, the custody case got established in Denver because he filed first. Remember when I told you that he went behind my back and filed before we even broke up and I didn't know about it? So because he filed first, the case got kicked to Denver because Hawaii, if you know Hawaii's court systems, they're so behind. They're just like, yeah, whatever, take it, okay? Hawaii never even fought for me. That's a whole nother story. So I fought super hard for like 6 months. And then when it did get kicked to Denver, we had to hire a PRE and she investigated us for another 6 months. She herself, that was 50 grand in of itself just to get the investigation done. She flew to Hawaii. We had to pay for her flight, her hotel, her lodging, her whole trip here just for her to investigate us. And by the time we got to family court at the very end when we had our trial, which was in December, I was so burnt out, worn out. I couldn't even afford to fly to Denver. So I was like, okay, when mediation came up, I was like, I'm going to settle in mediation. Because prior to all this happening, I had asked him over and over and over. I said, hey, we don't need to go to court for this. We don't need to go to court. What do you want? I will work with you. I will bring the baby up to Denver. Like, what do you want to do? Like, I'll work with you. And he never wanted to do that. I don't understand why. And then he blames me and tells everybody, oh, she dragged us through court. Bitch, no, I didn't. I'm traumatized. I never wanted to go to court. I never did. I never had to. I would have much rather just been like, hey, because that's what I did. When it got to mediation, I asked him over and over, can you guys please draft us a settlement? What do you want from me? I asked him for over a year, what do you want from me? He never gave me an answer. But then simultaneously, he's like telling him, I don't understand. I don't get it, because you really could have just said, here's what I want. And I would have said, yeah, because that's what happened in fucking mediation. So we got to mediation and they're like, okay, so I drafted up this schedule and I said, I'm going to bring the baby to you every month. That's what the fuck I've been saying. And they're like, no, why don't we do every 5 weeks? And I was like, okay, bet. He goes, he'll stay up here for 5 days every 5 weeks, and then I want him for 7 days. And I was like, okay, well, why don't we do 7 weeks every 7 days? We'll start off 5 weeks every 5 days. 5 days every 5 weeks. And then when he turns 2, we're going to do 7 days every 7 weeks. And then later on, like 2.5, you can have him for 10 days every 7 weeks. I said yes to everything. I didn't give a fuck. Like, this is what I wanted to begin with. I wanted you to come to this settlement in the beginning. We did not need to go this far. The child support. He owed me child support because he wasn't paying child support the whole first year of Brooklyn's life. I think he started to finally pay, like, right before he turned 1, maybe, because we finally went to court and they established, like, preliminary child support, and he was paying me a lot. He was paying me like $2,000 a month, and I was really grateful for that. I was like, fuck yeah, because I still had to go to the mainland so that he could see the baby. And $2,000 didn't even cover the childcare, but I was still super grateful for it. I know that there are mothers out here who don't even get $0, they don't even get $0. I understand this, okay? I'm not saying that I should have gotten more money. What I am saying is that I'm just upset that the money that I do get doesn't even cover a plane ticket, and I'm court ordered to go visit him so that he can see his son. And people are saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have moved. Babe, I never did. I always lived in Hawaii. He was going to move to Hawaii. My kids and my house is in Hawaii. And now I'm court ordered to go to Denver to drop the baby off, which, again, you didn't even need a fucking court order. I was ready to do it for free. And then in the middle of all this, he filed another lawsuit for defamation, which I don't even know what's going on with that because I had to get rid of my attorneys because I literally could not afford anything. I paid them $20,000 just for them to respond. And they responded one time and I was like, yeah, I can't afford this. $20,000, bitch, you crazy. No, what?
My mother-in-law once told my husband, choose her or me. And that wasn't even close to the worst of it. I think it's time I tell my side of the story. It's been 15 years, so if you see me looking past, it's to my iPad because I made a timeline. But let me start at the beginning. For privacy, I'm going to call my mother-in-law Penny and my husband Colton. And the crazy part is I actually knew my mother-in-law before I even met my husband. She had been a server at the Olive Garden for years, and I had just started as a hostess. I was also in college. She was nice to me. We worked together just fine. She did used to walk around, though, showing pictures of her son to the female servers, saying, look at my son, he's so handsome. And I did not want any part of that. She already obviously had a hand in his love life. I had, about a year before, I had gotten out of a really toxic relationship, and it was a really bad breakup. So I was in my hating men era. I just wanted to go out, have some drinks, not deal with anyone. That relationship changed me. I stopped being the quiet girl who let people walk all over her and became the honest, headstrong bitch you see today. And looking back, I think that's why me and Penny, we were always going to clash. I just didn't understand that yet. So one day, Colton walked into the restaurant. He had just graduated and got his degree and wanted to show his mom. And I was the first person he saw because I was the hostess at the stand. And I know it's cliche, but something was different. He wasn't like the alpha possessive male type. He was calm. And at that time his mom was really nice to me, which makes what happens later even stranger. So not long after that, he Facebook messaged me and we hung out. We went to grab some food, and then we went with a group of my friends from the Olive Garden to this abandoned limestone quarry. It has tunnels and rock formations, and everyone would say it's haunted because in 1918 there was an explosion that killed 50 men. So it was like this local haunted spot that people would go to. So we did. And the more I hung out with him, the more I realized I liked him. And then our first date, we headed up to the Adirondacks and we hiked like just a little mountain. And it was fun and it was easy. So we started dating. And that's when his mom's energy completely changed. I started spending a lot of time at his house because his house was about 10 minutes from where we worked. And he worked at Red Lobster, which was practically across the street. And my house, my mom's, was like 45 minutes away. So it made sense. And that's when the problems really started. It was little comments, like snide remarks, digs, silent treatments, just bad vibes. And then the whispering at work, like these 40-year-old waitresses whispering at work. And she suddenly needed him home all the time. He was working, he was in college, he was trying to date me, but she wanted him there, alone, always. Penny has epilepsy, and epilepsy is real and it's serious. Chronic illnesses are real and they're serious. I've had my own health struggles. I'm not talking about someone's diagnosis. I'm talking about behavior, because being sick doesn't make you cruel, it doesn't make you lie, and it doesn't make you hurt the people around them. And that is the pattern that I started noticing. The more independent Colton tried to be, the more often something would suddenly happen that required his immediate attention. Every time he tried to build his own life, working, going to school, spending more time with me, there was suddenly an emergency. He was expected to be available all the time. Even though Penny had a significant other, even though Colton was working and going to school, the expectations placed on him were constant and unfair. And at the time, I didn't realize what I was looking at, and I definitely didn't understand what living with epilepsy was like. But later, I learned something that made everything click. His dad's girlfriend spilled a little tea and told me that growing up, anytime Colton's dad would take him and there was another woman, especially when there was another woman around, Penny would call and say she's sick and needed him home immediately. Once they were in Pennsylvania and they had to turn around and drive him back home. She had done it his entire life. This is not random. It was when her control started slipping, and that is the pattern. So, as she started saying she was sick more often, I tried to be helpful. I would bring over movies from Blockbuster. I would bring over wine. I would sit with her, and we would hang out. And I'll note, she drank the alcohol just fine. And one night I went over and cooked a big dinner for everyone. So there was me and Colton, Penny, her significant other Max, and Colton's younger brother. I cooked chicken parmesan, salad, bread, like the whole works. At one point during the night, Penny started talking about this girl that Colton worked with. Her name was Brooke. She told me how beautiful Brooke was. She told me how sweet Brooke was. She told me that she just knew one day Colton was going to marry Brooke. As I was sitting there, as his girlfriend. We had been together for months. She said it while he wasn't in the room. And that's when I kind of realized this wasn't about me fitting in. It was about me being in the way. And that was kind of when I started thinking she didn't see me as a part of the family. She saw me as competition. So, after the Brooke comment, I sat there kind of startled. What do you say to that? We're in our 20s, we're dating, that's normal. In the more serious we became, the worse it got. Shortly after that, Penny had a birthday barbecue. And there was a girl, we'll call her Madison. Madison had started as a new hostess at the Olive Garden, and she had a little crush on Colton. She had actually asked Penny if he was single. And so Penny invited Madison to her birthday barbecue, which is odd because she was brand new and they didn't know each other. So throughout the day, Penny would keep positioning them side by side, grouping them together, encouraging conversation while I was standing next to him. So at some point we had realized she did this on purpose and we left. And that's it wasn't about disliking me. She was actively trying to replace me. So then they started calling for family meetings. We would sit down. It was Penny, Max, her significant other, Colton, sometimes his younger brother, but most of the time not, and me. And it wasn't a discussion though. Max dominated the room. He's this big Italian guy who really loves being intimidating. So he didn't let anyone else talk. He talked over us. It was not a conversation. It was a lecture. There was no attempt at understanding our side. There was no back and forth. It was very much our way or the highway. They said I didn't have to be with Colton all the time. Penny said I disrespected her. Penny said I'd never be as important as she is and that Colton would never choose me. That's when it started clicking for me because in the beginning you're like, what did I do? Why does this woman hate me so much? But the truth was Penny never hated me for something I did. The real problem was that I was not someone that can be controlled, and I wasn't going to let her control her son either. So Max then sent Colton a long email, which he did all the time. He would send long emails ranting and raving. And I wish I still had some of them because they were truly awful. In it, he told Colton we are not a package deal, that I would have to earn a relationship with them. And he told Colton to stop jamming her down our throats. And that's when they stopped using my name. I became her. Not Caitlin, not Colton's girlfriend, just her. That's how they referred to me in texts and in emails. Just her. As I said, I was in my early 20s. I did not have a lot of life experience. I hadn't handled dynamics like this before. She's in her late 40s. I wanted to come into a family and be a part of it. You want your boyfriend's mom to like you. You want her to think you're good enough for her son. And the strange part is she did before we started dating. And then once we started dating, that changed. I was never treated like someone welcome. Not at the beginning, not in the middle, and not now. And honestly, those first few red flags were nothing. A few months later, Penny did something that made it clear she never wanted me in the family. Part 2 of my mother-in-law saga. If you haven't seen part 1, go watch part 1. I'm trying to tell this the right way because it's 15 years of history, and I could just jump to the unhinged parts because there are plenty of them. But I built a timeline so you can see how everything unfolded, and it gets more unhinged the longer it goes. So at 21 years old, my husband was called a piece of shit for moving out and getting an apartment with me. According to his mother, he had abandoned his family, and that's when the real war with my mother-in-law started. And before I get into this, I just want to say one thing. I'm not here to pretend that I'm perfect. It was messy, we were young, there were arguments on both sides, and I have certainly said things and sent text messages that I regret. I'm telling my experience and how this unfolded over 15 years. It actually didn't start with one huge blow up. It was tension, it was comments, the feeling you get when you know you're not welcome somewhere. It became very uncomfortable being at our house. I don't remember every word, but I remember exactly how I felt. So we started spending more time at his dad's house. His dad had a big house and it was just him. And he had a pool, a hot tub, a finished basement, and his family, his dad's side was very welcoming towards me. Colton actually brought me to their annual camping trip only like 2 months into our relationship, and I have a lot of tattoos, and they veer on the religious side, and they're not a tattoo family, and they were still very kind and welcoming to me. So we started staying at his dad's more often. We were in our 20s, we're dating, it's normal, it made sense. And not long after that, we got our own apartment, and it was 10 minutes away from Penny's house. And suddenly it wasn't, he's just dating somebody. He was a bad son. Not because he disappeared, because he still visited and he still called. He just wasn't under the same roof anymore. According to them, he had abandoned his family. He was a piece of shit. Selfish. These were the words that they used. She would call him and scream almost every day. His phone would be sitting on the table while we were learning like how to cook dinner together, just trying to be together, and it would start ringing, and we knew exactly what was coming. Not occasionally, almost every single day. And she would yell at him about how he had abandoned his family. And in person, when he went over there, it was very clear that I was not welcoming. So I did stop going for a little bit, but then I was like, fuck this. I'm a part of his life, no matter who likes it. All of this because at 21 years old, he got a girlfriend and moved in with her. Apparently that made him a terrible person. He still went over there frequently. She still called him every day, but the cruelty never stopped. And I really do wish that I could remember every word, because it would show you how ugly this got. But it was 15 years ago. I don't remember every sentence, and I'm not going to embellish. I'm going to tell this exactly as it happened. They didn't just say these things to him. They spewed poison to anyone who would listen, including his 13-year-old brother, who we will call Kieran. And I want to be very clear that I don't blame Kieran, not at all. He was a kid. He listened to his mother. He heard her crying. He heard her screaming that Colton had abandoned the family, and he believed her. Most of the time, Kieran wasn't even home when Colton came over. He was a very social kid, so he didn't see the reality. He only heard the narrative. And I know that Kieran grew up hearing a very different version of events, and I don't blame him for that. But this is the side that he never heard. Penny would also involve Colton's dad constantly during conflict, but privately she would speak horribly about him, like story after story, complaint after complaint, trying to influence how I saw him. She would call him and meet up with him and just tell her what was going on from her perspective. And from my understanding, Colton's dad just said, let Colton live his life. This is what adults do. Be happy when they spend time with you. Be happy when they call you. Eventually, Max stopped acknowledging us entirely. He wouldn't speak to us. If we walked into a room while we were visiting Penny, he would walk out. Colton would say hey, and he was completely ignored. He treated us like we were the dirt on the bottom of his shoe, and that is how it remained for the entirety of our relationship. The pressure, of course, did not stay between Colton and his mom. It followed us home. We were young. We didn't know how to handle something like this. We loved each other, but we were constantly defending ourselves. And so it put pressure on our relationship, and we would fight. The guilt trips were relentless. He abandoned his family. He wasn't there when his mom needed him. She would always say how she wasn't going to be around forever. Daily, repetitive. With the guilt tactics, she began saying she was dying. One time she called him and said, I saw a white light. Before we started dating, Colton told me that her epilepsy was controlled and seizures were rare. She had had epilepsy since she was 18. But once we were together, suddenly there were constant emergencies, and we didn't know what to make of that. There were so many times that he was called and expected to drop everything and come home. And Colton is not a confrontational person. He's easygoing. He lets things roll off his shoulders. He takes time to process things, and that's okay. It's great qualities to a point until things started getting swept under the rug. And in the beginning, he genuinely believed he could keep both sides calm. He didn't see manipulation because he grew up with it. He saw hurt. And I had just come out of a bad relationship. My mindset was simple. If I am not wanted, I will leave. And so we argued. There were nights where we sat there and we said, maybe we should just break up. Not because we didn't love each other, but because we thought it was the only way to stop the war. That is how much pressure she was putting on us, on him. And a few times we did fracture. I won't call it a breakup because within a day or a few hours we were back together. We kept choosing each other, even while we were constantly being attacked. And if you've ever dealt with someone like this, you know what comes next. Penny realized what she was doing wasn't working. We weren't breaking up, no matter how much pressure she applied. And when that didn't work, she escalated things. It was about a year into our relationship. Penny told her son to choose her or me. And if he chose me, she would cut him out of her life. He was 22 or so. That was his mom. She had a chronic illness, and before all of this, they were close because he'd always have to be around her and doing things for her. So he was afraid of losing her. And I didn't, and I still don't understand that fear because my mother would never threaten me with anything like that. So we fought. Ultimately, we said we were done. I packed some things and left our apartment. I went to a bar to grab a drink and ran into some friends. And one of those friends that night tried to kiss me. And I told him no, like I'm still with Colton, even though I just said we just broke up. So I ended up going to my sister's house that night. And the next day, he came there to my sister's house. The breakup lasted hours. And again, we chose each other. But I was angry. This woman in her 40s clearly could not let her son be happy. She threatened to cut contact with him simply because he was dating me. Because he was no longer doing what she wanted. I can't wrap my head around that. But it is what she's used to. Even Colton's dad would do what she wanted. He would bring back his own son because she demanded it. And that moment also taught me something important about her. She didn't need to tell the truth to cause damage. She just needed to get to people first. And over, she uses that. So after the night at the bar, the friend who tried to kiss me was actually the brother of another server at the Olive Garden. So by the time it reached Penny and Penny called Colton, it wasn't a guy tried to kiss her. It was, Kaylin cheated on you. Except Colton already knew the truth because I had told him. And it was around that time I stopped working at the Olive Garden. The tension had gotten uncomfortable and drama has a way of spreading in small spaces. And girls like to gossip, apparently no matter what age. So when threatening to cut contact didn't separate us, and when trying to tell him I cheated on him didn't work, something else happened. Penny started trying a lot harder to get in between us. Part 3 of my, actually, I think I'm going to call it my Mother Gothel series. If you know, you know. This is where things start to get darker and heavier. And I'm going to even tell the parts that are uncomfortable because they matter. And about halfway through this episode, something happened that changed everything. So Penny suddenly had what she presented as a medical emergency. She needed to go to a hospital that was 2 hours away. She presented it as urgent, life-threatening. It was routine monitoring for epilepsy for a few days. It was a sleep study. It was not presented that way. She wanted Colton to be there. Not Kieran, not Max, Colton. He was expected to drop everything. And when he said he couldn't drive 2 hours away to sit in a waiting room for multiple days for routine testing, he was called heartless, selfish. It was unforgivable. The timing wasn't subtle. We didn't give in to her tactics. It was now, if something happens to me, it's your fault. Her tactics were failing. We stayed together. So the moral attacks got worse. They attacked who I was when they didn't even know me. They never tried. I was portrayed as poison, the girl who took him away from his family. He became the bad son, horrible brother, horrible person. He abandoned his family, even though our apartment was 10 minutes away from her house. There was no disagreeing with them, only condemnation. They didn't speak about us like we were people. They spoke about us like we were enemies. We were vilified. They did anything to destroy our credibility as people. They did not speak about us like we were human beings. 2 grown-ass adults doing this. And his little brother was collateral damage to her. When you're 13, you believe what you're told. And when a narcissistic parent cannot tolerate independence, they create sibling rivalry. And that's what she did. She erased who Colton really was with Kieran. He became the bad one, the one who chose a girl over his own family. The attacks were again constant. I mean, anything he did was never enough. He didn't do enough, call enough. He wasn't present enough. There was no version of him that was ever going to be enough. And that's how he was treated his entire life. Anything he did for himself was treated as a betrayal. He wasn't allowed a life until I came into the picture. So at this point, we were together about a year or maybe a year and a half. And our fighting was not about a lack of love. It was fear. It was stress. We weren't fighting because we didn't love each other. We were fighting because we did, and we were punished for it. We chose each other even when it was exhausting, even when it felt like the whole world was against us. We were trying to build a life while everyone around us was trying to tear it apart. And most of the story is about my mother-in-law, but there is a love story in there too. And, you know, I think it says something about us. We fought. I'm not saying we didn't, but I think not breaking apart, we were not fragile. Actually, I think we were pretty unbreakable. So something happened that neither of us expected. In the middle of all that chaos, we found out we were pregnant. It was not planned, but we were happy. We kept it to ourselves at first because the drama never stopped. And I don't typically share things about my health, but at this point it is necessary for the story. So I have had asthma, like severe asthma, my entire life. It has never been well controlled. I have inhalers everywhere. Every purse, every car, every room, I have to have inhalers with me. So one night, another fight started because of her, and emotional stress is a trigger. I frequently had asthma attacks. So I had another asthma attack, and this time I stopped breathing. Colton had to give me CPR. And at the next doctor's appointment, there was no heartbeat. I'm going to be honest, it was hard not to connect the stress to what happened. We had another fight because of her relentless bullying, her constantly attacking her own son. I also blame myself, my body, my asthma. I also had some eating issues. Colton never blamed me. And I made sure that I was eating when I found out that I was pregnant, but regardless, my body failed me and I failed the baby. Grief makes you search for someone to blame. Sometimes it's a situation and sometimes it is yourself. It was not quick. I could not have a D&C, so it was long and it was painful, physically and emotionally. My sister and her husband came over and we just watched movies. I did not move off the couch. We never told Penny because what was the point? I was now dealing with grief and the drama never stopped. I do think something shifted in us after that. We had started dreaming of names and diapers and what it would be like, and it was gone in one appointment. But we knew we wanted this, so we decided to give it a little time and heal and try again. I tried to work on the stress as much as anyone can and the eating. And about 7 months later, we were pregnant again. And that is where the next chapter in our story begins. Part 4 of my Mother Gothel series. If you missed the first few parts, go back, because this is where things start to get even more complicated. Before I continue the story, I do want to pause and address some of the comments about Colton. A lot of you are asking what his reactions are and why it seems like he wasn't defending me. The answer is complicated. And honestly, at the time, I was asking the same things you guys are. Why aren't you defending me? Why does it seem like I'm the only one fighting for us? What I didn't understand at the time was how he was raised. Colton grew up in a house where peace meant survival. He was raised to comply. His mom had big emotions and his stepdad had a temper. So Colton learned that the safest thing to do was to keep everyone calm. He was taught that what he wanted didn't matter. When his mom was upset, he felt responsible for fixing it. When Max was angry, he stayed quiet. Not because he agreed, because that's how he avoided conflict. This was normal to him. So when I came into his life and started saying, no, that's not okay, it felt like rebellion. Not because he didn't love me, but because standing up to his mother meant going against everything he had been conditioned to do his entire life. And that kind of conditioning does not disappear overnight. It took years, hard conversations, arguments, growth. There were definitely times that I don't even know how we made it through all of this. But eventually, he did start to see it. I mentioned this later. Over time, we both grew. Colton is no longer a people pleaser, and I am no longer willing to keep the peace at my expense, at my family's expense. But at this point in the story, Colton is still trying to keep the peace. So yes, Colton did defend me, but it looked more like this. He would let his mother run her mouth, and then we would discuss it and argue about it later. Because no matter what he said, she wasn't going to listen anyway. She still doesn't. Wait till I get to the stuff that's more recent. So now that you understand Colton a little bit more, let's get back to our story. We left off with finding out that I was pregnant for the second time. The first pregnancy was a miscarriage. We called him R. And I heard a quote back then that I have never forgotten. No footprint is too small to leave an imprint in this world. We hoped things were finally going to calm down. We were wrong. We kept the pregnancy to ourselves till I was about 3 months along. We went over to Penny's house one of many times. We told her we were pregnant. She didn't outright cry, but she definitely teared up, and not in a happy way. There was no joy, no warmth, no love. Looking back now, I think that's because I was no longer temporary. Even if Colton and I did break up, I would always be the mother of her first grandchild. I was always trying to make things better though. I was 23 or so, and you want that acceptance. So I filled her in on everything. I kept her updated. I tried to include her. Sometimes she would make comments about having another baby herself while I was pregnant. So there's that. I know there were other comments. I just can't remember them. I was just trying to be happy. And I know I don't mention my family much. My mom and my sisters and I are very close. I also have an older brother and lots of nephews that I adore. We argue like typical families, and then we get over it. My family was the opposite of her. Loud, loving, and they adore Colton. They've loved him from day one, and they were ecstatic that I was pregnant. At the gender reveal appointment, I allowed Penny to come. My mom was also there. Penny had 2 boys, but she had always wanted a girl. She actually thought Colton was a girl and bought him all girl things, only to be disappointed that he was indeed a boy. So when the ultrasound tech said, "It's a girl," she screamed. She jumped up and down. She made a scene. And in that moment, something that should have belonged to Colton and me didn't. I didn't say anything. And after that, she decided she was going to be happy about the baby girl. We had decided together that the baby would call her Nani. Nani is Italian for grandmother, and she's Italian, and we wanted her to feel special. Colton and I, of course, talked about names. For her middle name, we chose Jean. That's my middle name and my grandmother's middle name, my grandmother's actual name, and it is Colton's grandmother's name also on his dad's side. So we felt very connected to Jean. But during my pregnancy, Penny kept pushing for Rose, which is her middle name. She would bring it up repeatedly. "You should make it Rose. It would mean so much to me. It has to be Rose." Neither Colton or I wanted Rose. And for personal reasons, unrelated to her, I cannot have Rose as a middle name. I don't like roses. So, we decided, and Colton told her, it's our child. So towards the end of my pregnancy, we went to a quiet wooded park to take some maternity photos. And in the middle of all the chaos, he got down on one knee and he chose me, and I chose him. When we told her we were engaged, that was not something she was thrilled about either. There wasn't much of a reaction. No excitement, no congratulations. And when we started planning the wedding, she did not involve herself. She didn't offer to help. She didn't ask details. She just didn't care. She did show up when I was dress shopping, though, although it was also for her mother of the groom dress. My mom and sisters were there, too. And to the appointment, Penny wore all white, head to toe. I don't know if it was intentional, and it was not the actual wedding. It was just shopping for the dress. I also wore all white because it was my wedding. Again, it's just something I noticed. I didn't say anything. I came from a small country town, and that's where the wooded park was. So I wanted my baby's overall theme to be little pink woodland animals, pink foxes, pink deer, little bears. It was simple. It was sweet. She wanted princess. I said no. It was really one of the first times I was really very firm with her. This was my first baby. So when she arrived at the baby shower, head to toe in black, carrying a giant bouquet of princess balloons. Princess gift bags, princess clothes, princess toys. Another moment that was not allowed to be mine. A moment that was supposed to be about my baby and what I wanted as her mother did not happen. And that's when I learned that boundaries were not something she acknowledged. And again, I did not say anything. I didn't argue. I just noticed. My pregnancy was not easy, and toward the end, I was considered high risk. I had to take insulin. I was constantly being monitored at the doctors. And around 36 weeks, I started showing mild signs of preeclampsia. So the doctors, they don't take chances with that. They're like, it's time. You're going to be induced. They tried to induce me 3 times. And if you have ever been induced, you know that it's very painful. It's very invasive. And it wasn't working. I was not dilating. So the doctors came in and gave us a choice. So we chose to continue with the induction again or a C-section. So we chose the C-section. My mom was there, my grandmother, my little sister, and Penny. So while I was in surgery delivering my daughter, Penny was in the waiting room telling my mother that Colton and I barely knew each other. She mentioned how quickly we moved in together, which was, we started staying at his dad's at like 2 months and then got our own apartment at 4 months. We're in our 20s. It's normal. She mentioned how fast I got pregnant, and at this point we had been together 2.5, maybe almost 3 years. She went on about how close her and Colton are, and that a bond between a mother and son can never be broken. And I didn't hear about that later because I was delivering a baby. So then my daughter was here safe and sound. I allowed Penny to come in. She held her. She took pictures with her. She was a part of every moment. Even after everything, I included her. I did not shut her out. I made room for her. And at the end of the day, it was no longer about me. It was about my daughter. The next few months were a blur. I was learning how to breastfeed. We weren't sleeping, of course. I was healing from major surgery. Penny came over whenever she liked it. One day, her and Kieran showed up while I was breastfeeding. She would also make comments about how much my daughter looked like her in front of me while I was standing right there. And I kept allowing her to come over whenever she wanted because I thought maybe access would create peace. Something else she does is she never uses my daughter's name to this day. She will text me and say, how's my grandchild? She will call her my baby, my princess. And I don't say anything about it because I know she's trying to get under my skin, and she's my daughter. She's mine. So I never say anything about it. But 15 years, she won't use her name. So we had a baby. We were planning a wedding. And you'd think after the baby, things would calm down. They didn't. In fact, there was a fight that almost cost us our whole wedding. This is the night everything exploded. Part 5 of my Mother Gothel series. If you're new here, this is about the years of manipulation from my mother-in-law that almost destroyed my marriage. Everything that I am talking about actually happened. I write it out because I get nervous on camera and it helps me say things clearly. I have never done anything like this before. This is just my real story. So let's get into part 5. Around this time, Colton got a new job working as a travel tech for a nuclear power plant. So we would leave the state in spring and fall for like 2 to 3 months at a time. So it didn't make sense to keep our apartment anymore. We moved in with my parents. When we were home in state, we tried to see Penny once a week. I wanted a set day, something predictable, like every Sunday we're going to Nani's, but it never worked out like that. She always had her reasons it couldn't happen. And when we were out of state, I tried really hard to keep the peace with Penny. I FaceTimed her almost every day. I sent her pictures constantly. I dressed my daughter, who we will call Everly, up in little outfits, and we would go for walks. We were in North Carolina a lot during outages, and I loved it. The weather was beautiful. It felt like a fresh start. I talked to Penny more than I talked to my own mother. I was trying to move forward. I was trying to forgive the past, the attacks, the villainization, everything that happened between me and her and Colton. Holding on to anger is poisonous, and for a while, things were quieter. But quiet is not the same as healed. We were back in state between outages, planning our October wedding. It was August. Everly was about 8 months old. My sister was my maid of honor, and Colton chose my brother as his best man. We didn't really have a big friend group. We were focused on building our own life. My brother was already married, and he had been in weddings before. And because we were gone for half of the year, our maid of honor and best man had to take on a little more responsibility than usual. And this is where things start to get messy. Kieran was about 16 or 17 at the time, and much later we learned that Kieran was hurt by this decision, and we never knew. He never talked to us about it. He doesn't really talk to us. Penny fractured that relationship permanently. And honestly, at the time, we assumed he'd never want to do that. He was a social teenager. He was always out with friends, never home. If we had known, the conversation would have been different. We didn't think he'd be interested in the slightest. But there is a lot more to unpack when it comes to Kieran and Max, and they are going to have their own episode soon. So it's August, the day of our Jack and Jill party, and we were leaving that night for Georgia for another outage. And there's something I haven't mentioned yet. It was a rule that I was extremely strict about. No smoking around my baby. And I really don't think that's a controversial boundary. I have severe asthma, we know this, and some people never really cared about that, but when it came to my child, it was non-negotiable. Growing up, cigarette smoke-filled rooms were normal for Colton's family. His grandparents were 2-pack-a-day smokers, and Penny was a pack-a-day smoker. But when I got pregnant, I enforced it. No smoke around me, no smoke around my baby. Penny knew the rule. She would smoke outside and wash her hands. It had never been an issue. I did not care who liked my rule. I did not want my daughter affected. We already know that she could end up with asthma because I have it. Up until this moment, the rule had never been a problem. So the Jack and Jill party had both families there. It was a really good night until it wasn't. You know, people were laughing, were playing the stupid little games that you play at those parties, raising money for the wedding. It felt normal. It was nice. Penny brought her sister and her mother. Now, her sister, we had problems with in the past. Even Penny had problems with her. They had a history of physical altercations. During the party, Colton and I were about to play a game. The person who raised the least money got a pie in the face. So I handed Everly to my sister so we could play. And around that time, Penny, her sister, and her mother had just come inside from smoking. You can smell cigarette smoke immediately. During the game, Penny's mother walked over and tried to take Everly from my sister. They waited until I wasn't holding my baby. That's when they decided to try and take her. They had been smoking all night. She had not washed her hands. My sister said no, and that's when everything exploded. It escalated instantly. There was no calm conversation. Penny's sister started yelling, and not just raised voices, screaming, aggressive, escalating fast. Her mother joined in. Penny stood there. She didn't stop it. They started accusing us of letting other people hold the baby who had been smoking. That's not true. I don't play favorites when it comes to my child's health. So my family started yelling back. We're a family of very headstrong women. The baby was handed to my mom, and the fight spilled outside. Colton was outside too. He was trying to separate people, trying to calm it down. Penny's sister grabbed my little sister by the dress. She took off her shoe and raised it like she was going to hit her. I was standing on the balcony railing, ready to jump on top of her. And Penny stood there. She didn't stop her sister. She didn't stop her mother. She just watched. Colton was furious, but also in peacemaker mode, because that's who he's always been. He grew up managing her emotions, trying to de-escalate everything. So that's what he was doing. Penny might have also been yelling, I don't remember, and I won't embellish what I cannot recall. But this was a health boundary for my child, a rule that Penny had no issue with up until that night. Eventually, it was broken up, and when they left, my family clapped as they walked away. We left for Georgia that night, but what happened wasn't left there. And honestly, at that point, I didn't even blame Penny for the fight itself. She didn't grab my sister. She wasn't the one who raised the shoe. That was her mother and her sister. But she stood there. She didn't intervene. She didn't try to de-escalate. And when you're the bridge between families, silence matters. Colton's dad, we will call him Vaughn, wasn't even at the Jack and Jill party. Apparently he had better things to do, even though Colton is his only son. Now remember, Vaughn has a soft spot for Penny. Anytime he took Colton growing up and Penny demanded him back home, he complied. We left that night for Georgia, and that's when Vaughn called. Colton also gets his easygoing nature from his dad, so when Vaughn called him screaming at him, it was shocking. He had spent hours on the phone with Penny, and by the time he called Colton, his mind was already made up. I don't know exactly what Penny told him, but whatever she said was enough for him to immediately turn on his own son. Based on what his ex-girlfriend of 24 years ago said, he refused to listen to Colton's side. He told Colton he would no longer help with the wedding that was 2 months away. Vaughn had offered to pay like $3,000 for the venue. That might not sound like a ton, but it was to us. Colton was devastated, not just about the wedding, but being treated like that by his father. His dad believed a version of events without even asking him what happened. And once again, Penny turned someone against us. And once again, suddenly we were the villains for enforcing a health boundary for our child. We were sitting in a hotel room in Virginia. We had just driven 10 hours. Our daughter was asleep. We were exhausted. 2 months away from our wedding, and suddenly we weren't sure if we'd even have one. Part 6 of my Mother Gothel series, where we left off, was Colton's dad told us he wasn't going to help with our wedding anymore. The wedding that was only 2 months away. Vaughn's anger didn't last forever. He's naturally easygoing, and once he cooled down, he actually listened to Colton. Colton defended us. He explained why we had set that boundary. He told his dad that our child's health comes before anyone's feelings, and if they couldn't respect that, they didn't need to be involved. I don't know what else Penny said to Vaughn, because Vaughn is level-headed, so it must have been more than just telling him that her family could not hold Everly after smoking. Other things must have been said. Vaughn knew how Penny's family can be, and he did offer to help pay for the venue again. But the damage was already done, because in one phone call, without being there, without hearing both sides, he was ready to walk away from his only son, and this would not be the last time I watched this happen. We did get married, but things were strained. The night before the wedding, my family stayed at the hotel. No one from Colton's side came. The next day, Penny showed up with a friend, and Kieran came, but he looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. And even after everything, I still included Penny. Family pictures with us, pictures with Colton, pictures of him kissing her cheek, pictures holding my daughter. I never shut her out. I treated her like family because I still wanted peace. The wedding itself was beautiful. We smiled, we danced, we said our vows. But something had shifted. I didn't feel safe in the illusion that things were better because they changed with her at the drop of a hat. The chaos quieted, but the tension never really went away. Life moved forward. In and out of state, traveling for outages. Most days it was just me and Everly. Colton worked 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts for the duration of outages. I still tried to include Penny. Again, I FaceTimed her. I sent her pictures every day, trying to build a relationship. Something else started happening around this time. Penny would tell Everly to call her, and Everly would, and she'd never answer. And when you're 3 years old, that hurts. She would promise visits when we were back in state, say, "Oh, I'll see you Monday." Then Monday would come, and then she'd cancel 10 minutes before. Everly would get upset. This was not once or twice. This was her consistent behavior. Colton told her to stop promising specific days. If she couldn't follow through, she needed to stop making promises to our daughter. Let her visits be a surprise. But Penny kept doing it. She also started telling Everly she was sick, sometimes even saying she might die. That was something we shut down immediately. Children shouldn't carry adult fear. She would try to talk to Everly about her seizures, about her epilepsy, and again, we had to explain why that was not appropriate. You are supposed to protect children from fear, not plant fear in them for sympathy. My daughter certainly didn't know what asthma was or that I had it. Toddlers should be worrying about crayons and playgrounds, not their grandmother dying. Something else that never made sense to me, she would say she was too sick to see Everly and then offer to babysit or offer to take her overnight. If someone is too sick to see my child once a month, they're definitely not taking my child overnight. Especially when Max, who lived in the house, had ignored us for years and never even acknowledged that my children existed. Why would I send my daughter to that environment? When Everly got a little older, Penny actually told her she was going to take her for a sleepover, without speaking to me or Colton first. That's not how this works. It caused a big fight. She tried to reason with Colton, and he said no, overnight visits were not happening. We have never allowed overnight visits with anyone at this point. You don't get to be too sick to see my child, but healthy enough to take a child overnight in an unstable environment. That's not a punishment, that's protection. There was another boundary issue at that time too. Penny had a large Rottweiler named Sadie. I love dogs. I have 2 dogs myself. But Sadie was not used to being around young children. One day, Sadie growled at Everly, and Penny said it was a love purr. No, it was a territorial growl from a dog big enough to kill my child. I'm not gambling my child's safety on denial. Dogs around children need training and boundaries. Colton would often put Sadie outside when we visited. Around that time, Penny's mom, who we will call June, her health started declining. Colton's grandfather had passed from lung cancer years earlier, and June was alone. Penny started helping her. She brought groceries, she checked on her, and then it became another one of her reasons she couldn't see us, which at this point we just wanted to see her once every few weeks. At some point, June moved in with Penny and Max. Max charged her $1,000 a month for her to live there. Penny did stop working and went on disability sometime in the previous year or two. June's VA pension went to Max. Eventually, June was diagnosed with dementia. The woman who had screamed and yelled at the Jack and Jill party was completely different. Softer, kinder, almost childlike. She just became grandma. Caring for someone with dementia is incredibly hard. I will never pretend that it wasn't hard on Penny. Around that time, when Everly was 3, I became pregnant again, and again our life changed. It was another high-risk pregnancy, and around 37 weeks, I was brought in for another C-section. Again, Penny was allowed there. She held my son, who we will call Liam. She took pictures, and for a while, things felt calmer. But the patterns didn't disappear, and Colton was certainly starting to recognize them. About 2 weeks after Liam was born, and this next part was one of the hardest moments of my life, Colton had to leave for an outage. We talked about it. We needed the money. We agreed that he would go. I was home with a toddler and a newborn, trying to breastfeed, recovering from major surgery. Mamas, you know how it is. And Penny lived 10 minutes away. She didn't come to help. That's when I thought things couldn't get more overwhelming. Liam got sick. He was only 3 weeks old and he had a high fever. And babies that young are not supposed to have fevers. So I had to rush him to the hospital, where they attempted a spinal tap on a 3-week-old baby. It was honestly so traumatizing. Then we were transferred to a children's hospital, and that's when Colton left Massachusetts and drove straight to us. Thankfully, Liam was okay, but it was terrifying. I had to send Everly to stay with my mom, and I stayed at the hospital with the baby. And through all of that, Penny never offered to help. She never came over. When Penny was sick, she expected everyone to drop everything and run to her side. But when someone else needed help, she disappeared. And I didn't realize just how true that was until the day my life was actually on the line.
Of course, if I'm over there, I'm gonna, if he's like okay, but then he was not okay. Of course, if I'm over there, I'm gonna, if he's like okay, but then he was not okay. Mr. Go. Jace. That was the second time I heard that noise.
Okay. And I saw something, Jordan.
Okay, that was the second time I heard
Jordan?
that. What?
We need to replay the camera.
Yesterday, I posted a video of a Snapple bottle that moved on our counter twice during dinner time. And we've just been talking about it. We're really freaked out. Last night we were talking about it and looking at the footage. We went back and played more and it moved again right in front of my face. So yeah, I just wanted to share that part, and just if anybody has more insight, we would love a scientific explanation for this, because we are moving in 5 months and trying to figure out if it was Kiki, science, something that came with me from my childhood home, something that's on this land because these are new apartments. There's just an office building here before, so I don't know. I'm going to share the video. It's pretty quick, along with the 2 that I posted from yesterday, but yeah, let us know your thoughts because we're genuinely freaked out.
Of course, if I'm over there, I'm gonna, if he's like okay, but then he was not okay. Mr. Go. Jace. That was the second time I heard that noise.
Okay. And I saw something, Jordan.
Okay, that was the second time I heard
Jordan?
that noise. What?
We need to replay the camera.
Every time something racist happens to me, as a black woman attorney in court or around the courts, I'm going to say something because I'm really tired of it. Like, I'm so tired of it. I just want to do my job. This morning, I drove an hour and 15 minutes to court. I'm going to a court in a county that is not my home county. However, I have an Ohio law license, and that law license allows me to practice anywhere in the state that I want to. And so a client who resides in the county that my law office is at decided he wanted to retain our law firm, which is a smart choice. So I say, okay, no problem. Charge a little bit more because it's going to be a little bit further of a drive, not a big deal. Know how to handle these cases, handle them every single day. Fine. I get here, I check in. I call ahead of time, by the way, because you want to make sure that you know exactly what the court rules are, what the process is for turning in clients who have warrants. You just want to be confident in what you're doing because preparation is key. So I do that. I set it all up. Talk to pretrial services, everything good to go. They know we're coming. He's on the docket. I go in to check into the courtroom to basically say, hey, I'm here. I see a woman, the judge is already on the bench. So I see a lady in the courtroom handling the files. Literally, got the files open, is going through things, whatever. So I say, that seems like a person that knows what's going on and works here. So I shall ask her quietly, where do I check in? Maybe it's with you, maybe it's with someone else. I'm not sure, but you clearly have the court files, so let me check in here. I whisper, okay? I'm not loud, I'm not interrupting. I'm saying, excuse me, good morning. I'm attorney Leslie Johns. I'm here to check in for an arraignment. My client is here. And the judge says, stops court. She's addressing someone. She stops court. She says, are you okay? To the clerk. The clerk says, yeah. She says, do you know her? And the clerk says, well, no. Because you don't know me. She doesn't know me. Like, of course, no. And she's like, well, ma'am, have a seat. And I'm like, but ma'am, have a seat. And so I say, well, just an attorney trying to check in. And I sit down. And she says, oh, well, the bailiff will come and help you. Okay. Like, that's literally what I was trying to accomplish. I was just going to ask her who I should check in with, but you didn't have to stop court. I just asked a question. And she said, I was just concerned. I was just scared because you were approaching the clerk. Scared. So before someone comes for me in the comments and says, well, maybe you didn't look like an attorney, because that's happened before when I posted these videos. I'm wearing a suit. This is a suit. I've got heels on and suit pants. So at that point, there's a courtroom full of people. So I am embarrassed and kind of mortified because I'm trying to process in real time what's happening. And so my mind is racing and I'm thinking, okay, whoa. Okay, so basically you thought that you didn't think that I was a lawyer. Let's just start there, okay? You did not think that I was a lawyer. You made the assumption that I was not. Although I had breached the back rows of where all of the defendants were sitting. I had breached that at that point and was like, boldly, because the lawyers do, right? And so I had breached that point and I was already up there. So wow, that would the audacity for someone who is not an attorney to do that. But then you didn't even like ask the bailiff to be like, hey, can you assist her? Like, figure out what's going on. You know, I sit on the bench as a magistrate, and I do that. Someone comes in the courtroom and I'm on the bench and I'll just say to my bailiff, hey, check in, see what's going on with them. Like, do they need something? What's going on? Instead, you loudly accused me of being threatening towards a court staff. Because why else? What do you mean? You were scared for her? What was I going to do? And so then I eventually get called. Up. And it's after, wait. Because after that, I sit down, the bailiff comes to me, approaches me, hands me the files, like, oh, yeah, hi, thank you. I called ahead of time, like, hey, nice to meet you, cool. We'll call you next, I'll put your file up. The prosecutor calls about 10 more people before he calls me, after the bailiff had walked the file, put it in the pile right there. The prosecutor calls all these names and then says, at the end of calling all the names that no one answered to, calls my client's name and then says, well, they say that he has an attorney, but I don't see her. I'm sitting in the front row, right here. The bailiff just addressed me and handed the file and said that we were ready. What do you mean you don't see her? Oh, well, oh. And then, so I'm like, hello, right here. Then he says, oh, well, oh, I didn't recognize her. Okay. So I get up there, and before I go, the judge says, hey, one moment, to my client. I would like to talk to your lawyer. She calls me up to the bench and she apologizes profusely. And this is the situation that I'm put in because you've already humiliated me in front of a courtroom full of people and made me feel this big and like I am just some random lady here, which, by the way, you should also treat random ladies with respect. But you call me up in front of everyone to your bench and, like, I suppose try to whisper an apology because the whole room is listening and we're on the record, by the way. And I am supposed to receive it and accept it and move on because I now have to address the warrant that my client has for an offense of violence and make sure that he gets a personal bond. So I cannot say what I want to say to you in this moment because that could impact my client and also, I guess, my ability to practice in this courtroom. But I am highly upset and highly offended and humiliated. But I just have to turn it off and do my job. And that is what we call inherent bias. That is what we call microaggressions. That is what we call racism in the criminal justice system. And I just taught a class the other day on race in the criminal justice system. and basically tried to explain to a class of first-year law students how even putting people of color in place in the justice system will not fix the issue, because I am a black woman in the justice system who's been in it for 11 years. And this happens to me still to this day, 11 years later, in 2026. Happy Black History Month.
Story time, one of the saddest moments I experienced as a PD in criminal courts in LA. My name is Tiffany Blacknell. I have my own law firm now, Tiffany Blacknell Law, but I also was a public defender for 18 years, and I was a DA on the executive team at the DA for 4 years. And now I have my own firm. Anyway, this is one of the saddest moments that I've experienced in court, maybe top 10. This is a case involved a woman who was charged with welfare fraud. Now, when you're a public defender, you are assigned to a court typically. And in that court, if you have people who have a warrant that pops up in the system and they get arrested, then that's your client if that's your day to pick up cases. So on this particular day is a woman who got picked up on a warrant. She had been convicted previously with another lawyer of welfare fraud. Now, when y'all hear welfare fraud, some of y'all be like, oh, she's like a welfare queen. She had a Mercedes-Benz and she was buying all kind of stuff. No. Most of the welfare fraud cases I've handled involve women who literally are working a side job to supplement their income because the welfare did not cover rent and all their necessities. So we're talking about like people who had like minimum wage jobs, but they didn't write it on the form, so they were charged with fraud. Anyway, this woman had 5 children and she had no other record except for that welfare fraud conviction. Now, she did not report to probation when she got out of jail initially on her case when she had the other lawyer. And she did not pay back any of the fees that were owed or money that was owed to the government. So they issued a warrant for her arrest, and she was arrested on the warrant, had been in jail a couple days. Now, I didn't know her. Like I said, I never met her before. So I walk into court, they tell me there's a person there that needs my assistance. So I talk to her. And then I look out in the audience and I ask, like, are there any family or friends for this person, Jane Doe? And they're like, a boy raises his hand, maybe like at the most 16, probably like 15. And there are other children next to him. So I'm like, oh, and I go to the hallway, I talk to him. Apparently he's a 15-year-old kid who is the oldest of 5, and all of them in court, very quiet, very polite, not making any noise or any commotion. And their mom was arrested a couple of days ago. So he had been taking care of the little kids. And also he had the help of a neighbor who were like giving them food and stuff, but they needed their mom home, obviously. She was the only parent in their lives. So I'm like, oh, fuck, this is awful. So I go and we talk, and then the case is called. And I go to the judge. I'm telling the judge, like, this person has no real criminal history except for this case. This person is a crime of poverty. She does not belong in jail. She has 5 children who are very, very, who depend on her. Obviously, she's a very good mother. They're in court, quiet, well-behaved, like polite, all the things. And so they need their mom. And so basically he was like, okay, I'll give her 60 days. And when he says 60 days, they start to cry. Oh, they start to cry. And the little ones were like inconsolable. And instead of like, reconsidering and seeing the impact of what that decision would make on this family, he's like, get him out of here. He tells his bailiff, get him out. He's literally angry at the children for crying about their mother. Like, I'm sorry that you had to, for once in your life, see the devastating impact that it has when women and children are separated because of a fucking stupid justice system. I'm sorry that the children's cries and pleas annoy you, but this is what happens to families once you put people in jail for shit they don't need to be in jail for. Like, so anyway, I'm like fuming mad. I'm like, Your Honor, this is not, like, you're just mad at her. Like, jail should be reserved for people who are dangerous, people you're afraid of, people who cannot, be rehabilitated on the outside. This woman is a mother who did what she had to do to care for her children. And you are literally putting her in a cage away from her children. So what? You're mad because she didn't pay the government back, but you about to charge the government, about to pay for her to be in jail? And so his rationale was this. It was like, oh, in county jail these days, they're only doing 10%, so she'll be out in 6 days. And it's like, okay, that is what they're doing generally, but you can't promise that. Besides the fact that in 6 days, DCFS could come, kids could go in the system. So you okay with her going to jail, losing custody of her kids, And then the government having to pay $1,000 per kid to have them placed in foster care. Like, what the fuck? Make it make sense. The math ain't mathing. So I had to make a decision. I had to talk to my client, and she had to make a decision. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to take the 60 days? Are you going to go to have a probation violation hearing in front of the same fucking motherfucker who just tried to give you 60 days? Like, and there is no real defense. You didn't report. You didn't pay anything back. You know what I'm saying? So I'm smoking hot, and me and this judge had a history anyway, where he threatened to hold me in contempt because I told him that he should just throw away the evidence code since he wasn't going to follow it anyway. And he got pissed off. So whatever, we got bad blood. But he's trying to like talk me down, like, oh, Ms. Blacknell, you know she's not gonna pay it back anyway. This way I'll delete the fines, I'll delete her probation, just don't worry about it anymore. I'm like, she needs to be with her children. Like, what the entire fuck are you talking about? Is society safer because she's in jail for fucking 60 or 6 days? Anyway, the bailiff escorted these children out the courtroom. I talked to the client. She wanted to take the 60 days to get it over with and get back to her family. And I had to go out there and talk to her fucking family, her children. I wanted to cry, seeing them cry and console each other, right? And then the neighbor drove them down a court or whatever. But like, what part of the fucking game is this? Are you keeping people safe, motherfucker? Because I don't feel safer because she's in jail for fucking 6 or 60 days. You know what I'm saying? And that type shit wears on you when you're a criminal lawyer. And if you care, now some people don't give a fuck about their clients, but if you care about your client, that shit will fuck up your day. Like, I remember stomping down the hallway, like, waiting to see a PD going to the office to fucking talk shit about this motherfucker. But like, what can you do? Like, it's crazy how unjust shit would happen on a fucking regular basis. And you just have to mitigate the harm because there's so much of it. And because the system is stacked against you. But like, this idea of using jail as a tool for people who you're mad at is fucked up. And it destroys family and destroys life. And that shit, that case sat with me. It's been like 15 years or whatever. I'm still mad about that shit, honestly. And she did get out in like a week. But that's a week away from your kids. And not having to explain to some small children that their mama isn't really going to do the whole time. But she's still going to be away from them for a week. You know, I'm telling y'all, people talk shit about public defenders, but that's fucking God's work. Because that shit is hard. It's labor intensive. It's fucking emotionally taxing. It drives your fucking high blood pressure up. Like, if you care. You know what I'm saying? And I cared then and I care now. And that shit is like a fucking job hazard to be fucking keeping 100. Criminal justice system is a bitch.
I just want to say to all the girls that think that they're dying because their husband left them, they're pregnant and their husband got the frick up and left them. I just want to tell you a story. This is for you, girl. Okay? My ex-husband of 7 years picks up my kids. He calls me. I've been blocked for 7 years, okay? I haven't seen this phone number. It was like a ghost. I was like, who's calling me? It's not even saved in my phone anymore at this point because, like, I'm blocked for 7 years. We talk on a parenting app. Like, I literally have to go to www. just to talk to you. Whatever. I'm in Hobby lobbying with no kids on the weekend. And I'm like, hello? Are my children okay? How are you? This man says, Rosianna, I heard you're dating someone new. I said, do you have an emergency with my children? He says, do you think that's healthy? Okay, class 2 morbid obesity. We want to talk about health here. Okay, are you worried for their safety? Would you like to take the children full time? Oh, is that what we're doing? Click. Goodbye, sir. I don't have time for this. He left me when I was 6 months pregnant over 7 years ago. Okay, over 7 years ago. So my son comes home on Monday and I'm like, come here. Mommy will give you $20 today if you tell your dad the next time you see him that mommy has a sleepover with a different man. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now I have to buy a PlayStation because it wasn't enough. But I just want to let you know, girl, you're not going to die. You're going to thank God that this happened. You're welcome.
I'm not a bad driver because I'm like unskilled at it. I'm a bad driver because I'm late to everything and I have to multitask.
I've been celibate for over 5 years and I would love to explain why and the benefits. this might be a little long, so if you need to save it, come back later, you can. Fast forward or do whatever you got to do, but I'm going to speak fast so that I can get everything out. Right before going celibate, I had met this guy. How we met, don't matter. Probably Instagram or something like that. But anyway, he asked if he could take me on a date, and I said yes. So he didn't tell me where we was going. He was like, all right, cool. I'm going to come pick you up. I'm like, okay. Now, at this time, I was very, very in the world. So I was like, okay, cool. This my hot girl era. Like, I'm going to just do me. I ain't going to trip off, the little stuff. Because before this, I was very much like one of those girls who was like, I don't have sex outside of relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't do that. Never did. I lost my virginity very late in life. And so, well, not very late, but like in my late teens, you know what I'm saying? That's late for the world standards, right? So I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't have sex outside of marriage. I think when I was like 28, I had only been with like probably one or two people. So at this time, I was like abandoning my morals, you know what I'm saying? Because in my head, I was the only one of my friends who wasn't out here like this. And so I felt like I'm the prude of the group. I don't want to be the prude. So I'm finna, you know what I'm saying, loosen some of the grips that I got on. So at this time, I think it's important to say that I was dating multiple guys. And when I say dating, I mean dating. But if sex was introduced, I was okay with that. So yes, I was also having sex with maybe like one person at the time. But we weren't in a relationship, and I don't even think I desired to be in a relationship, but I still was having sex with this dude. Now, don't judge me because we're going to get through all of this, and then I'm going to wrap it up. So I'll go on a date with this dude. He comes and gets me. We have a good time. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is probably the first time that I've ever been honest about the situation out loud. But we went on the date. He took me to a Rams game, and then we went to a museum, like a very interactive museum. And then we went and got some tacos from like a taco truck or some burritos or something. Because if you're from California, you know what's up. We got a bottle. We rode around the city, talked. It was a vibe, right? But the thing that I'm going to admit that I never admitted out loud is that although it was a vibe, I just knew I wasn't really interested like that. Like, there was no spark or connection. But I really did love that he made me feel very girly, dainty, feminine. He paid for everything, which is like normal, right? But for me, I was like, this feels so good. Like, I really like him. He held my hand on the way into the stadium. I brought our drinks because I was like, I'm trying to let him know, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm a little wife, you know what I'm saying? That's what I thought. Okay, so I bought our drinks. We had a good time. He drops me off at home. The next time I see him, I'm telling him, like, I'm cooking. Do you want some? Now, y'all, I'm a cooker, right? So I'm like, I'm already knowing what I'm doing. So I'm like, do you want some food? You can come grab some. He's like, okay, cool. I'm finna pull up and get some. I'm like, okay, cool. But he had to go to work. So he just driving by real quick to get the food. Mind you, we haven't had sex or nothing. So just need to make sure y'all know that. At the time, I didn't have no place like that because I had just moved into my apartment, and I also didn't have no Tupperware. So I brought him out one of my plates with some foil over, and I was like, hey, bring my plate back because I don't really have that many, okay? So the next time he brings the plate back, he makes a little joke first, and then the next time he's like, come outside, I got your plate. I said, okay, cool. So I came outside to go get my plate. He pops the trunk. He got a whole box of plates, bowls, brand new, cups, mugs, sharp knives, butter knives, cutlery, everything you could think of, this man had it. And of course, I'm like, okay, yeah. So I am so moved by this gesture that I decide I'm gonna give him some Gucci. Now, I'm trying not to be like too out there because I'm a changed woman, so I don't like to say it like that, but that's what I was thinking. That's what my old self was thinking. So, of course, the next time that he comes over to my house, he comes in, obviously, We also go on a trip. We go on this trip. He takes me on a trip to this snowy place. I'm trying not to give too many details because I don't want to give away too much. But he took me on a trip for a couple days. During this trip, I bring some stuff, some activities for us to do, like paint and sip, all of that stuff. He don't want to do none of that. It's so boring, okay? Boring. Only thing we doing is the do and going out to eat. That's it. So when we go out to eat, and we doing the do, like, this is how boring it was. I'm going to show y'all how boring it was. First of all, what was that? Because did my eyes just do something weird? Anywho, we gonna keep going because I'm not gonna let the enemy stop me from what I'm about to say. So it's so boring to the fact that we are literally at the table. You can hear forks and knives scratching on the cutlery, on the plates at the restaurants that we're visiting while we're at this place, on a vacation. It's couples next to us who are having bomb conversation, okay? They are chilling. They like, babe, yeah, like doing the stuff that couples do. We sitting there silent. We on our phones, scrolling, cutting steak. So anyway, long story short, when we get back, he asked me, I asked him, I had got him 2K because I wanted him to know how grateful I was. So I'm like, thank you for taking me on this trip. I bought you 2K. This is while we're still on the trip. I had the game the whole time, but I wanted to give it to him at the end of the trip. So anyway, I give him the game. I ask him, I'm cringing as I'm saying this, do he want to make it official? He laughs and says, oh, not right now. But the way that he said it was he gave an excuse, but it was very like let's just keep seeing where it go. If I gotta do a part 2, I will, but I'm gonna try to get the bit. So right then and there, it would have made sense for me to be like, okay, clearly we're not aligned, and then for me to reevaluate my actions and then move forward in a different way with someone that I was more compatible with. But for me, I kept pushing forward. I tried. We went on for a year to date, pretend like we was in a relationship without having no title. A year. Now, okay, with that whole year, I ended up breaking up with him because I felt like he was boring, and finally I just came to grips of the fact that like there's no spark between us. We be around each other after we do the do. We be scrolling on our phones. We go out to dinner. We go out on dates. We scroll on our phones. There's no real connection here. Like, I'm done trying to make it seem like it's something that it ain't. Now, while I'm doing all this with him, I have about 3 or 4 other guys online. My value, my worth at the time is based on the men that's texting my phone, how much attention I'm getting from men, and how many I'm juggling, right? And I'm not having sex with all of them at the same time, but there is a roll-off of sexual activity, okay? And I'm telling y'all my business, but I don't care because I'm not ashamed of it because of how far I've come. And then one day I had this just awakening. I woke up one day and I think I was listening to a friend talk about her situation with a guy that she was essentially in a situationship with too. All of them was situationships because when you're having sex and y'all are not in a relationship, y'all are not official, it's a situationship, right? Or casual, whatever you want to call it. I realized as they were talking, I realized that a lot of the hurt, the pain, the things that I was feeling, the things that my friends were feeling, the opinions that we shared amongst each other, the podcast that we listened to, the music that we listened to, because Summer Walker was real big at that time. A lot of that was based on an incorrect way of dating that we was never meant to do. We were never meant to date like that, but we were all dating like this and then being mad when we had these bad experiences. We were sharing those experiences with each other. We were listening to those experiences in our music. We saw our mom have those experiences. We saw our aunties have that experiences. We were just all universally a part of this incorrect way of finding a mate. Because the typical way of dating in America and in our culture specifically is to meet somebody, have sex, and then decide what we're going to be after that. And I'm speaking for women, but there is a side for men as well. But we meet this man, we let this man into our womb where our babies come from, that's connected to our spirits, our souls, and so many other things in our bodies, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And then we wonder why things don't work out. So without having a lot of information, we let them into that space based on how we feel about them or pressure or whatever the reason is that we end up letting them in. But we let them in only to find out, wow, you have a lot of stuff with you. I didn't realize you were like this. I don't like you. I may have a child by you by now. And now I don't like the type of dude that you are. I don't like your character. We are not aligned on many things. And by this time, we've inflicted hurt. We've gathered wounds. We have started to dislike this person on a major level. We've also spent a lot of time on you, 5, 6, 7 years, only to realize it's not even a match. Or if it could have been a match, we went about it the wrong way. And so now we are both just trying to heal through each other and it ain't working because we started this on a shaky foundation. And it just made me realize that if God created a way for us to date, if God created a way for us to get into a relationship with the opposite sex, there is a reason that he did that. He created us. He loves us. He's not a dictator God. He's not a terrible God. He's not a bad God. He really wants to see us happy. So if he told us, I created you and this is how I created you to work, and we're going outside of that, this is why we on this app and in this world with so many terrible opinions and hurt.
I know this is unconventional, but none of my friends are allowed to give speeches at my wedding. Y'all know too much. I don't want to hear you say, I remember a time after you've had 3 drinks. Give me the mic. That's enough out of you. Sitting in my car, I'm about to go into the grocery store, and there was like a crazy situation that happened here last night. It's like police and someone died. It was like a whole, can I say died? Shit. There was police, someone did a pew pew, and it was like a whole thing. Anyway, wild. Which makes me think of the time like that something crazy like that happened to me. I often think this was a fever dream, but there's pictures to prove that this actually happened. So this was like 10, 12 years ago. Something was wrong with my car at the time, and I had to get to work early in the morning. So my brother's best friend, Mike, offered to drive me to work. So we're driving. We're in the middle of Worcester, Mass, and it's early morning, like 6:30 in the morning. And we're driving. No one else is on the road really, but we see a man walking away from the car, and he had no shoes on. But he was walking away from us. And I thought that was odd, but I said to Mike, I said, why don't you just beep the horn? Maybe he'll move out of our way. We can get around him, you know? Bad idea. So this man, as soon as we give a little toot toot, turns around so freaking fast and beelines it to the car that we're in. Let me just state, this is a time where the doors in cars do not automatically lock, okay? That is pertinent information to the story. The cars that we were driving in, the doors did not automatically lock. I'm in Mike's car, I'm in the passenger seat, and we just beeped the horn at this strange man, and he turns around and runs at the car. Runs. And I'm like, Mike, lock the doors, please lock the doors. He fumbled and did not get to the lock in time before this man opens the door. The driver's side door. Okay? He opens the door, and he is, when I say covered in blood, I mean dripping blood everywhere. He has no shoes on. He looks homeless and just completely out of his mind, covered, right? So we're stunned. We're like, get out of the car. What are you doing? Please stop. No. We're swearing at him. We're like, no, get away. We don't want to run the man over. But I mean, Mike, whatever. We were stunned. So as we're arguing with this guy, he pulls out and he basically, we don't know what's going on, if it's loaded, if it's not. He says, I'm getting in the car. He opens the back door. He gets in the back seat. We're terrified. Again, this is something that I look back on and I'm like, what? So now he's in the back seat, right? And he, to our knowledge, has something pointing at me directly. He is covered in so much blood, he's spitting. He's just like, when he's talking, he's spitting at me, and it's all over me. It's so much so that my blonde hair was pink, okay, with some strange man's. He's like, drive the car, and of course, we drove the car. We did whatever he said because he had it in the back seat. So Mike starts driving. There's a bunch in Worcester. There's a ton of red lights. So there's this man staring at me. Hold on. Okay, he left. So there's a ton of red lights, and obviously we're driving. So Mike's slowing down to stop at the red lights. This man wasn't having it. He starts screaming uncontrollably that we are not able to stop at any red lights. Do not stop at the red lights. Do not stop at the red lights. They're gonna get us. They're gonna get us. No one's around. We're like, who's gonna? Whatever. So we're driving. We're blowing red lights at this point. I'm looking at Mike. He's looking at me. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? And this man in the back, mind you, he can barely see because there's so much. He's badly injured. So, long story short, we are slowing down as much as we can to these red lights because we can't stop. This man's gonna lose his shit. So Mike slows down a little bit, and I looked over at him, and I tuck and rolled out of the car. I left Mike and I found a Barrow's hardware store. And when I tell you, it's 6:30 in the morning. My hair is now pink and I'm in scrubs. I'm running to Barrow's hardware and they're closed. It's 6:30 in the morning. Banging. I'm just banging on their door. Someone please help me. A poor girl came over to the door, opened it up. I probably looked like the insane one. I told her what was going on. I didn't have the license plate number of my friend, or my brother's friend, but I told her like what he drove, everything. And then as she's on the phone with the police, Mike pulls in to the Barrow's hardware store, and no crazy man in the backseat. Come to find out, as soon as I tuck and rolled out of the car, which hurt like a bit, the man got spooked, and he also jumped out of the moving vehicle. When I tell you, the inside of Michael's car was destroyed. It was destroyed. There was so much everywhere. He had to get a new interior of his car. So anyway, we called the police. Turns out I had to call my work. Oh, that's the other part. I had to call my work, my place of work, and tell them, hey, I'm not going to be in today because crazy situation happened. We were kind of kidnapped. They probably thought I was crazy, but it's such a crazy story. So I couldn't go into work because I had to go get tested at the hospital for all over me, that man's bodily whatever, all over me, from him yelling and screaming at us. I had to get tested. They ended up finding the guy. And the funny thing is, like, he had to be tested as well. And he was handcuffed to a stretcher, like 2 curtains down from me in the hospital, while I was like waiting for results and stuff. But yeah, the police were kind of like really rude too. They were like, turns out this guy is like a schizophrenic. He's really like, he's not doing well. And like, I don't think you should press charges. What? Absolutely not. There was paperwork filed. It was a whole thing. The guy, like, I do very much feel bad for people with mental illness, but this man fully kidnapped us at 6:30 in the morning, and it was wild. It was such a crazy morning. So yeah, he was all like bloody because he had jumped out of a 3rd-story building, broke through the window, had no shoes on, was profusely, like, he was very injured. And I feel bad that he had mental issues going on, but like, my man. Also the cop was like, well, the wasn't loaded, so you're fine. How would we know that? Such a crazy thing that happened, and I always forget that actually happened. But I'll post some of the pictures of the interior of Mike's car, because crazy. He had to get the whole interior of his car redone, and that poor boy was just trying to help me get to work. I have a lot of crazy stories, but that's probably the craziest one. Be so grateful that your car doors lock automatically. That is all. Bye.